Giuseppe, my freezer, rocket fuels. No. Oh, what's good, party people? This is Voodoo in the Woods. I am joined by Voodoo Maximus, former UF MMA champion. I'm Accord in the Woods. And last night, we had UFC Vegas 17. It marked the end of a crazy, literally like bazonkers. That's what I'm going with. Like a bazonkers UFC 2020 because literally every weekend since July we've had fights, either a UFC pay per view or a fight night, and UFC Vegas was the bookend to that season. Voodoo, what did you make of this card?
It was okay. It was okay. I mean, I've gotten spoiled over the past few months of excellent cards. So when this one, did okay, I don't want to say anything negative because even though it was not the top 3, it was still pretty awesome.
Voodoo's angling for a job at the UFC commentary spot. That's why he's being PC, so he doesn't have to do a mea culpa. But yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, and we'll get into it. I mean, I thought Jeff Neal versus Wonderboy Thompson in 2020. If you put that on pay-per-view, it wouldn't draw it like a fly if it were covered. If both gentlemen were covered in excrement. So, even for a fight night, and I don't even think this would have done well on UFC on Fuel TV. Dang now 8 years ago. So I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, we had some highs, we had some lows. I mean, thankfully this wasn't like a tweaker. It didn't rip somebody's face off after smoking bath salts. But I digress. So, I mean, starting out the night, and I'm gonna kind of take some of this because Voodoo was like Jane's Addiction. He was literally coming down a mountain. And this is the dedication that this man shows, not only his body, it being in its temple, but also to this very show that, I mean, he literally raced down the mountain so we can film this. So shout out to Voodoo and his athletic endeavors. But we started out the night with a friend of ours picking up a win. Literally
That's
on
right.
10 days. I mean, was it 10 days notice? Less than
3.
that? 3 days notice. 3. This was like Sean Weltman and our friend Christos Iagos was the 1, 2, 3 kid because he took this fight on 3 days notice. And guess what? He was the favorite going into this. And Carlton Minus, I mean, living up to his last name, was like a minus. I don't know how it works in betting or whatever.
He took a minus.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, he took a minus. Yeah, I mean, the Spartan literally ran over the minus, right?
Yes.
Geez, Louises. I mean, Christos Iagos back after literally a year's kind of not exodus, but he couldn't get a fight for whatever reason. Not on Fight Island, not at Apex until last night, and he performed admirably, especially on 3 days' notice. Voodoo, what did you think?
Well, first of all, for all fighters, all professionals, Christos just gave you the blueprint to success. They haven't called this dude in over a year. And when they did call him, guess what? He was ready. When you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. The man was ready. He made weight on 3 days' notice. Made weight. Formulated a plan that's going to definitely guarantee him a win. And he went in there and he executed. This is what a professional does. Christos Iagos, professional mixed martial arts fighter. He's a professional prize fighter. When they made that call, my boy was ready. He was ready. and he got the job done. What else? What else can you expect from the man? I mean, what you expecting a knockout? Well, give him more time to prepare, and you might get a knockout. You expecting a submission? Give him more time to prepare, and then you might get those things. But on 3 days' notice, it doesn't get any better than that, man. The man was systematic for 15 minutes. He did what he had to do. I mean, he wasn't in the best of shape, but yet the guy that was in shape could not utilize his gas tank to win the match because Christos knew where he was aiming to win the match. So he took him away from that. He took him down to the ground every opportunity he got. He took him down to the ground and he executed. I'm not mad at Christos at all. I would have done the exact same thing. And he left there without any injury. So guess what? Christos is already coming back into shape. So come January, February, guess who they're looking at? Guess who's fresh on their minds? Christos Jagos. That's right. Congratulations, Christos.
Yeah, shout out. I mean, somebody that's just a joy. Don McGuire jumping in. Sup, my brother? Sup, Don McGuire? Yeah, man. We miss you. And I mean, literally, there might be something coming down your how do you say the messenger? So
yeah.
just so you know,
Check your
Don
messenger.
McGuire. I'm just
Check
saying.
your messenger.
I'm just saying. But
Check that messenger.
speaking of messengers, we had a message. Jimmy the Brick Flick had a message that he wanted to send to the world, and he sent it. I mean, literally January, right? With a record like his, he was angling for a UFC. I mean, like literally, he was 13-5, thereabouts, either 12-5, 13-5. But he essentially won his way a LFA flyweight title, first round submission, right? Dana White Contender Series, first round submission, made his debut in the UFC, first round submission, and I believe last night, yep, it was a flying triangle, first round submission. My goodness gracious. Jimmy the Brick Flick, again, if you didn't know, now you know. This guy is, I mean, literally incredible. Now, I know Voodoo, you might have taken exception in terms of what he said in his post-fight interview. He basically said, "Hey, I need some time to take care of some things, but maybe about summertime I'll be back for you guys." But I mean, what was your thoughts on Jimmy Flick's performance as well as his post-fight interview?
Hey, look, Jimmy, he did what he had to do. He did what he had to do. Not only did he do what he had to do, he got the finish, man. I mean, he went out there and he fought the better striker. Unfortunately, the better striker did not understand what to do when the man jumps guard and he's throwing his leg around your neck. You know what I mean? He sunk it in. He sunk in the triangle. I mean, up until that point, Jimmy was losing. He was getting pieced up. But then once he got that takedown, the rest was history. And I believe he threw a kick, and the kick got caught, and dude was trying to take him down. And in that moment, he held onto the leg too long, just like that dude that got kicked in the face, and that highlight. And yeah. Just like that guy, man. You cannot hold on to the leg for so long, man. He held on to the leg for so long. He didn't elevate the leg right. My man still had his balance. So from there, he's like, okay, let me try the flying triangle. And he landed the flying triangle. He sunk it in, and that was that. I mean, how could you not understand how to defend against the flying triangle in the UFC? Like, he had no defense for the triangle. None. He can punch really, really well and kick really well. But then when it came to defending your basic fundamental triangle, he had nothing. And he deserved to lose.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's crazy because I think that Jimmy Flick's opponent, Cody Durden, he might have been like listening to In Vogue on his walkout because he was just like, "Oh, hold on, to the instead of love, he might have misconstrued it as leg and
Yeah.
got it all messed up and discombobulated. But that being said, Jimmy Flick, for somebody that hasn't, I mean, that wasn't on the UFC roster at the beginning of the year, he has fought 4 times, won himself an LFA flyweight championship,
Mhm.
as well as two performance of the night bonuses. So that's not it's not bad. Not bad to be the Frick,
Hey,
you know.
hey, look. When you win 2 performance of the nights in the UFC, that's $100,000. Not counting your pay. That's $100,000, not counting your pay. So if the man says, "I want to chill till summer," understand he's gonna chill till summer. You know, and it's he. I don't believe he's gonna be sitting on his ass doing absolutely nothing. I'm sure he's gonna be training, but he's not gonna be focused on a training camp. So he'll stay in shape, but he won't be focused on a training camp. Now, after working so hard the entire year through this COVID nonsense, the man deserves a break. And I am not mad at him for taking that break, even though he has momentum right now. I mean, everyone wears down sooner or later. Clint Eastwood said that every man must understand his own limitations in Dirty Harry, and it is very true. So, is it possible that this man is hitting his wall and he's understanding his limitation and he needs to rest his body in order to go on another run? Perhaps that's what's going on. And I don't feel that 6 months or so is enough for the UFC to forget about him because he's on a tear. You know what I mean? And that weight class is not so deep that he falls through the crack. So when the time comes and he's ready to fight, they'll remember his name.
Yes, absolutely. And Jesse Velasquez says it was a great triangle, though. Crazy setup, but yeah, he just fell
Mm-hmm.
into it. And Cody Durden didn't posture up or anything. Must have been
Nothing.
tight as shit. No, 100%, Jess. Yeah,
And man, before it got tight was when he was supposed to make his move. And if you're not making your move, it's those transition pieces, man. You know what I mean? This is why Khabib beats everyone. He transitions better than everybody else. It's not that his wrestling is like from the gods. His wrestling is not from the gods. Let me tell you, it's not from the gods. It's nothing special. Nothing special about Khabib's wrestling. I said it. There ain't nothing special about it. However, where he beats everybody is in transition. In transition. He outworks everyone in transition. That piece of the art that is so tough to work through. The one that gasses you out the most, Khabib is flawless in that section of grappling. You know what I mean? That transition is what burns most people out. And if you watch his fights, when people start to transition with him, you know what I mean? Step 1 to step 2 to step 3, step 3 to step 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, they start to wear out. But then Khabib still got 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10 on top of everybody. You know what I mean? This is what Khabib has. It's the transition cardio. The transition cardio is his bread and butter. And until someone comes through with formidable transition, they got nothing coming.
Speaking of a nice transition from the fighter's voice, we have the one and only. He is the great Don McGuire. Don McGuire, what's going on?
That's him right there.
Oh, I got to admit, man, it's an honor to be on the show first and foremost. But I got to admit, I kind of played hooky on the UFC last night, man. I watched all the way up to Greg Hardy, and I was a little disappointed, but then I had to throw in my boy Canelo. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The thing of it is when you spend half your life watching the UFC, and I originated in boxing, and I'm an old-fashioned Muay Thai fanatic, and to me, the truest form of combat is two men just standing in front of each other and just giving it their all. And I mean, I got to admit, overall, I was even disappointed in the Canelo fight last night. Some saying he should be called the greatest pound for pound fighter in his weight class. What I saw was a great fight, but was it anything that I would be out shouting from the rooftops about or be glorified
Oh no.
about? I got to say, I was a little disimpressed with both the UFC, I mean, and boxing last night. I think when you look at certain aspects that are procreated in our sport because of the situation that our country is in now, you get a vast amount of fights. You get a vast amount of, you know, situations occurring at once. And true sports fanatics, are really over inundated. We're seeing fights that we want to see. We want to see one or two fights on a card, but when you look at the whole card, it kind of is a big turnoff. Now, I will admit, when Team Oyama fighters are on, or someone of that statute, or somebody out of Factory X, I'm all over it. But
Yes.
I mean, I'm not a big, Wonder Boy fan at all. I'm truly not. But did I think he had a great performance last night?
Yes. Yes.
Me. I always tell the truth as I see it, bro.
That's right. That's right. Now, I have a question for you.
I mean, I'm just honored, man.
I got a question for you.
Go ahead, bro.
Now, do you think the Canelo fight was boring because his opponent wasn't capable of dancing with him?
Yeah, well, see, a lot of people don't realize there's a difference between a UK style boxer, a Mexican style boxer, and an American style boxer.
Yes.
You get somebody from Mexico, they're going to stand and bang. What I saw was a man that felt the power of Canelo and ran. He didn't want to taste the power, so he ran 90% of the fight, which to me led to a boring fight. There's probably many out there that will disagree with me, but I got to tell you what, I don't know if you watched the fights last night or not, but the two amateurs out of Tijuana, Mexico, that were a filler slot before the Canelo fight. Now I'm back. Okay. But that's boxing. I mean, they were slated for a 4-round filler fight and didn't even last 2 rounds. I mean, that's what we want to see as fight fanatics, as fans, glorified Jake Paul and Logan Paul and all this coming into the sport. But, like I told Adam in the early days, the sport has gone to putting asses in the seats. It truly has gone to, taking away fights from deserving fighters, and do I think Jose Aldo should be fighting? I see. This one thing that's different about me and a lot of people. I see it straight how I feel. I think Jose Aldo was a legend in his time. Should he still be fighting? Hell no. Do I want to see Conor McGregor back? Not particularly.
No,
do I think Khabib, retired too early? Yeah, but you got to also look at. I'm a brother of many AKA fighters. That's well known worldwide. I have my favorite gyms in this country. I have my favorite fighters. But taking away from fighting all to itself right now, and Adam, and I know you're not going to mind me saying this, but a brother of the sport from No Holds Barred is on death's doorstep right now. And he's in a coma. His kidneys are shutting down. And he paved the pathway for everybody that you guys come on multiple times a week and talk about, and that being the polar bear, Paul Verlins, a true brother of mine. He's down in Atlanta right now, and he's on death's doorstep. And, the greatest part about this sport, and we can all come on here and talk about what a great fight it was and what it was, but people don't realize when two grown men that hate each other or like each other, no matter what, when you go to war with each other, you can't help but become brothers.
Yeah.
You can't help but become respecting of one another. And I think people from our era, well, my era, with Paul Verlins, Justin McCauley, Chris Brennan, and, you go Pat Miletich and all those, I don't think a lot of these fighters today respect the beginning of the path that gave them the walkway to where they're at right now. And I know we want to get back to talking the fights, but I just got to add one more thing before we jump back into that. I truly think Dana White needs to make Greg Hardy a necklace with an asthma inhaler on it, because he got gassed out quicker than shit. He looked great in the beginning, the first couple rounds. I did catch a little bit of that fight, but I gotta tell you, I'm seeing a flaw in him every time. And no disrespect to Billy Patton or America's Top Team, but I think they got some medical issues they got to get figured out with Hardy, because he gets gassed, and it's nobody's fault but himself. Asthma's a major illness. I have asthma, but if you're going to compete at the top level, then you have to rectify that difference in your training curriculum. Would you agree with me, Voodoo?
Oh, most definitely, man. Most definitely. Because what got Greg Hardy gassed, he was fine when he was free moving. When he was free flowing, he was perfectly fine until the clinch. The clinch was what did him in. The takedown defense was what did him in. And when he got to the ground, the panic set in. The panic, he knew that all week long, all month long, they have been discussing the fact that, hey, man, we got to make sure we stay off the ground. We got to make sure we stay off the ground. If we stay off the ground, we can beat this guy. Now he's on the ground, and everything that they talk to him about is now coming to fruition right before his very eyes. And that panic set in, and then he couldn't recover from that. He forgot what he was supposed to do to get back up. He just didn't know what to do. All he could do was cover up. He failed, and he fell to the panic. That's what did him in.
So let's jump around a bit. Since we're here, I think we should jump to that Greg Hardy, Marcin Tybura fight, because I think Christmas came early for me. It's never good to denote or diminish somebody who puts their life in the cage, right? But this one, I didn't feel any remorse at all. I leapt. I yelped. I mean, talk about screaming from the top of the mountains on the wire. You alluded to that. I was he got TKO'd. I don't use Twitter too much. I don't Twitter too much, but I shouted from the Twitter sphere. I put that on Facebook. I was so damn happy. So fucking happy that, and I was just like, and I said on Thursday, if Marcin Tybura can't knock out or TKO Greg Hardy, if I'm Dana White, I'm questioning whether I want Marcin Tybura on my roster. So to me, he proved himself just a bit. I didn't like how, sluggish that Tybura looked. I don't know what it was, but a person of his caliber, I expected a little bit more from him. But even still, he TKOs Greg Hardy. I hope that he's in one of those 200 some odd roster cuts or whatever. I never want to see Greg Hardy again. I didn't know of him from football. I care less of it now that I know that he's from football. I don't care or whatever. And Greg Hardy was essentially the reason why Greg Hardy getting a contract, and then guys like Chris Curtis, who literally in his appearance on Dana White's Contender Series, with a broken hand, he ends up not just finishing the fight, but KOing his opponent with a Shawn Michaels super kick. He super kicked a motherfucker in real life, and he doesn't get the contract, but Greg Hardy does. What are we talking about here?
Well,
I'm gonna cut you off, Voodoo, real quick, Chris.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm just gonna say it like it is. Greg Hardy is the Paige Van Zandt of the UFC.
He ain't as pretty though.
Pretty.
That's the first time. That's a first. I've never heard Greg Hardy and a Paige Van Zandt comparison. Good Lord. This is what we're doing here. Go on. Please elaborate.
The analogy is fair. I mean, think about it, bro. The analogy is fair. I mean, I think I'm giving Greg Hardy credit.
Okay. So that would be like, I don't know. That's like, I mean, I'm comparing maybe, I don't know, like one of the Kardashians. I'm not too fond of which one is which, but one of the Kardashians. Let's just say the least talented one. Probably starts with a K in her name. Even so, that's like comparing her, whoever she is, to like Usain Bolt. That's like kind of not really. But I know. I mean, I follow you, Don. I totally follow you. But yeah, but I get it. Now, do I want to see Greg Hardy in BKFC? Absolutely not. I don't want to see him on my screen ever. Never, ever, ever.
Hey, Greg Hardy needs to do
We
something about
we might
that
see
cardio.
Greg Hardy in CFFC.
Say what? Say it again.
I said we might see Greg Hardy in CFFC, but I think even that's a step up for him.
Wow.
Hey man.
I mean, and theoretically speaking, I mean, in CFFC, the commentators are John Morgan
Yes.
and CM Punk.
Yes.
So we might have Greg Hardy, CM Punk in the same universe, which is weird.
Hey, people need to understand.
Yeah.
Without wrestling, you got nothing.
Yeah, you know, I have to agree with that. You know, I got to agree with that because, as you know, I'm starting to interview fighters for the February 6th card. I know we're not on, you guys aren't on that today, but you know, it's building up to be a card that I'm really liking. You got Marion Renault on the card. You got Derek Menner on the card so far. You know, fight announcements are breaking daily. And I got to tell you what, Derek Menner coming back after that long layoff and coming in and getting a 32-second victory was tremendous. You know, I had the gentleman on the show with talking about bare knuckle boxing. I had him on with Dakota Cochran on my last show, and then I just had Marion Renault on Friday. And I got to tell you what, that's the card that everybody's going to want to watch because that's the card that I can't divulge too many secrets, but I know a lot of fighters that are on that card, and that is building up to be one of the most historic cards that I've seen in a minute. And you know, I love Marion Renault because you go back to her fight with Beth Correa, and a fight that I truly know in my heart that she won. But you know, you can't expect to go down to Brazil and let it go to the judges against Bet Correa and win. I mean, you know, Marion understands that. We all understand. Yeah. Oh, you know, yeah. You just can't even do it against any Brazilian. You know, Jose Aldo getting the win last night. I really think he should have cut his gloves off and put him in the center of the ring because I really don't think he has much left in him, man.
Hey, but
look at Adam don't agree with me.
No, I just like the fact that he got paid by a temporary tattoo, whatever. That speaking of like, you know, no holds bar and whatever, I'm half expecting to like see goldenpalace.com, you know, on people's backs and everything. That was a very sly way to kind of get around Reebok's policy. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm all for the fighters getting paid. So shout out to Aldo.
Hey man, I've never seen Aldo do so much jiu-jitsu in my life.
Well, yeah, because he doesn't have a chin. That chin's gone. That chin's like 7-day-old milk. It's curdled.
And he was holding up for dear life.
Yeah.
Adam's going, why the hell did I bring down the wire on my show today?
I agree. No, I agree. I have a funny Aldo story because you talked about his chin, right? Obviously, his chin went away with one notorious Conor McGregor. Now, the night of that fight, I went to Pasadena, California, and there was a place kind of like where they have the Rose Parade, right? A bar there, and they had an underground kind of gimmick where you could watch the fights, right? You had to pay like $10 or whatever. It was me, my wife, and one of my friends, right? And that night, funny enough, former UFC roster member Jamie Yeager was there that night, and I got a picture. I wasn't even doing any of this then, right? But I was like, "Oh, Jaeger, blah blah blah," a picture, right? After we take the picture, the main event, the promo package happens and everything like that, and Jaeger, right as Bruce Buffer is making the announcements, he's going like, "I got 20," and as he's saying this, the dang bell rings, right? I No, I think he actually said 100. I got 100 on Al. And before he could even utter Aldo, get it out, like literally, because he was standing in front of the screen. He was standing in front of they had one of the projector screens. He was standing right in front of it. And as he was like throwing it down and uttering Aldo, I see Aldo's head from his shoulder, like I'm looking over his shoulder, and his head go down like the damn walls of Jericho. It was so. There you go. Talk about Aldo's chin. I had a UFC interaction when it went away. So there you go. There's that.
Hey, I want to get your guys' take, and I don't know if you've gotten this far in your show yet, but what was your take on Moraes versus Font, bro?
Okay.
I was a little baffled.
I wasn't baffled at all. I knew it was gonna go down just like that. Pressure. Pressure breaks pipes, man. And that's what happens to Moreno. When you pressure that dude, one, you gotta watch out for that lead left high kick. Once you watch out for that, and you might manage your distance and put a lot of pressure on him, he's gonna fold, and that's what happened. He went for the takedown immediately because he understands that Font has very good hands and very good feet, and he's got very good movement. So they nullify each other right there. But and then he figured if he takes him to the ground, he'll be able to use his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt or whatever he has to punk him on the ground. But it wasn't happening. He found quickly that he was using way too much energy on the ground than he would have if he was standing. But then by the time he got back to his feet to stand, he was already out of gas. And Font just foot on the pedal, lights out, finished them off. I mean, it was what it was.
So I had a bit of a kind of inkling that the jig was up with Moraes, right? That experiment, having a World Series. I mean, a lot of people forget, right? Coming out of World Series fighting, two of the homegrown stars, two of the homegrown champions that went to the UFC were essentially Marlon Moraes and Justin Gaethje, right? Yeah. So with that all being said, I'm a big fan of people taking over the world. When Eddie Alvarez came from Bellator finally to the UFC and captured the title there, I'm all in. I want a world beater, right? The champions of different organizations coming over to the premier organization and wrecking shit and getting themselves a belt to say that, hey, guess what? That organization that I was fighting over there, we had top talent over there too. And now I came over here to wreck shit and whatever. So with that all being said, I knew the experiment with Moraes was over. Not just the Aldo fight, not just his UFC title contention, and he bumblefucked that one up, right? But more so on, I want to say it was Thursday, right before we went on live, UFC on their YouTube page, they put a 10 or so minute video of the New England Cartel. Basically, and it was just Font and Calvin Kattar, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going in my head when, Dana had shit with the Diaz brothers and, basically, made them enemy number one because the UFC production crew had to go out to Stockton and chase them around for 2 weeks and wasted $50,000 worth of production footage and whatever, right? So I knew how much those things mean to the UFC. the machine, right? So again, when the main YouTube channel of the UFC and then later UFC Fight Pass puts a 10-minute video on a gym that literally only has 2 fighters of note in the UFC, I know something's up. Something smells a little fishy. So for me, I was like fucking Font all the way. I mean, that was almost like Font winning after that piece on the New England Cartel and Jimmy Flick winning by first round submission. Those were the only fucking locks I thought were on this card. I mean, so that's where I'm going with that.
Can I jump back in a little bit to what you said
Jump
there?
right back in, brother.
Potentially, well, you look at Justin Gaethje. I shot him in World Series of Fighting. I shot his last fight in World Series of Fighting. I really respected the kid. The kid is a beast. And, I back in those days, everybody said he would never go anywhere. He would never be anything. He would never amount to anything. And I disagreed with everybody. I went against the grain because I'm always outside the box. I always speak my mind. Like I tell people, if you don't like my show, don't listen to it. It doesn't bother me. For every 2 that leave, 10 come. But I had faith and I had respect in the kid, and then when he got into the UFC, I think Justin Gaethje needs to do some soul searching. I think he's a tremendous fighter. I think he has great ability. I just think when he gets caught in certain situations or when he gets stunned, he doesn't have the coaching staff or the training staff that has correctly taught him. You get Justin Gaethje in a place like Team Oyama or with Mark over there at in Colorado, Factory X. Or you get him with somebody like James Krause and Zach Cummings at Glory and Lee Summit. I think you're going to see a lot of defining changes in these fighters. James Krause said once that somebody had asked him, "What's it like to be 22-7?" He said, "I'm not 22-7." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'm 22-0 with 7 lessons learned." And I see that's the people look at this sport and don't really understand that analogy. Because you know what? I could be 34-0 and you could be, 14-1, but you could beat me. When that cage door closes, it's anybody's fight. And most people don't realize that. What I see in Justin Gaethje is a true world champion. I just think he's a man that really hasn't had the proper corner or the proper knowledge to instill and push him to where he needs to be. People always ask me, Don, why do you interview coaches, the inner workings of the sport? Because really, that's where the vast knowledge is. You get Kenny Johnson on, you get Chris Brennan, you get Pat Miletich, you get Colin Oyama, and they're open and honest. Then, you know what? Of course, 99.9% of the sport aren't going to want to hear what they want to hear. Why? Because it's the truth. Colin Oyama's greatest statement was, "My gym could be full every day, but I would rather have quality than quantity." And that's what you want in a coach. And I think that a lot of these fighters that have gotten up there, look at Thug Rose, look at others, and they say, "Oh, if Thug Rose fights Carla Esparza, she's going to die." Don't count Carla out, bro. Because Oyama's her coach. And you know what? Any night you can have a bad night. But the thing I'm getting at is that so many people put their own selves on a pedestal. Look at Jillian Robertson last night. She's so damn worried about posting half-naked pictures of herself more than she is training, and then wants to blame it on, "I didn't show up to fight tonight." No, if you would stop taking pictures of yourself half-naked and spend that time in the gym, maybe you would, because you're a talented fighter. You're a great fighter. You're one of the few fighters that I see on the ground. She can fight from the ground. She finishes fights from the ground. But if you're more worried about getting 1,000 likes on a half naked picture of yourself, you're never going to go anywhere in this sport. I'm sorry. I just like to say it like it is. And, I'm 56, so anybody can come at me and disagree with me. That's the wonderful thing about my analogies in life. You don't have to agree with me, but prove me wrong.
That's right.
Prove me wrong. And like I said, Jillian Robinson's a great fighter. I've interviewed her several times. I think she's got tremendous heart. She's durable. But I don't give a oh, I'm sorry. I don't give a crap what you look. I don't give a crap what you look like half naked. I don't. That isn't what made me like you in the first place. I don't understand that aspect of the sport. I'm sorry. There's a lot of people that appreciate that side of the sport. But you know what? I'm not going to see you naked. I'm going to see you fight. So I could care less about that side of your life. But if you're going to be in the public eye and say you want to be a world champion, then damn it, step up and be one.
I agree. I agree with you 100%, man. Because see, people lose track of what their original intent was. Of course, to become a successful fighter, you need to have a platform, right? But people lose track of how they should be using that platform. It should be your fighting prowess that builds your platform, not your naked body. You know what I mean? So, of course, the naked body is always gonna get more likes, and people lose track right there when they start to see that, oh, my naked body is getting more likes. Let me start moving towards that because that's where I'm getting the most action. But the likes don't buy tickets. The likes don't tune in to your fights, right? They're tuned into your naked body, but they're not gonna tune into your fight. So you've already made a mistake right there. So if you have a social media, make sure your social media is around that thing that you're doing. What is that thing that you're doing? You're a fighter. You're a professional fighter. Make sure 80% of your content on your social media is your fighting. Fighting related, not naked body related. So I completely agree with you, sir. 100%.
Well, you look at Marion Renault. Okay, hold on, Adam, real quick. You look at Marion Renault. When she fought Beth Correa, she was ranked number, I think, 7 in the world. She's got taught a few lessons since then. Now she's number 11 in the world, but she's still ranked in the world. Okay, she's going to go in February 6th against Casey Mason. And is it a fight that she necessarily needs? Not really. But is it a fight that she needs to reprove herself to the UFC and to the UFC fans and the people that are paying 80, 90 bucks a pop to watch the fight? Yes, she does. And, the reason I say that is because you're looking at a 40-year-old fighter going against a 23-year-old fighter, and, I commend athletes like that. There's a story when I interviewed Dan Severn. Many don't know the story. When he first went to the UFC, he lied. He said he was 30 years old when he was actually 40. And he beat some of the greatest fighters in the history of this sport after his 40th birthday. So age, you hear these guys, and I hear it all the time on my show. Oh, I'm at the end of my career. Well, how old are you, bro? 34. And I laugh. I think it's funnier than crap because, you look at somebody like Dan the B7 who has been through it all, but you look at the names that he's beat. You look at the warriors that he's faced. I mean, age is only a number. I'm 56, and I could still climb a cage faster than probably some of these 20-year-old kids, and I got a prosthetic leg. Age is something that you let define you. And I think in this sport, a lot of these guys get in the stigmata that, well, I'm getting to be 36, and my career's coming to an end. That's bull crap. It's bull crap, man. When I was 36, I felt like I was 18. So, I mean, to you young fighters that think you're getting to your prime, man, get out of here with that. Because I can bring on Kung Lee, uh, everybody. The only one that I think should have hung it up, after 2010 and never came back was Chuck Liddell. And, I got to interview him for that Tito Ortiz fight. I was second to Larry King. I was the only one that got to interview him. And this is how pathetic people are in life. They said, "Oh, bro, well, you got seconds to Larry King." I said, "Yeah, but I got two interviews with Chuck, and I'll take seconds to Larry King 7 days a week."
That's right.
Who wouldn't take seconds to Larry King, one of the greatest interviewers in all aspects? See, I think the sport has changed so much from the beginning when I came in. Because you got to remember when me and Dan Mergliata, and we talked about this not even a month and a half ago, we used to buy our own airplane ticket, pay for our own hotel, pay for the ticket to get into a venue that we were hired to work, not knowing if we were going to get paid. And 9 times out of 10, we didn't do it. But why did we do it? We did it because we love it. And I think a lot of these fighters are missing out on that point. I think they got to where they're at because they loved it. But now sensationalism, putting asses in the seats and trying to win a beauty contest is changing the sport. I'm firmly against Jake and Logan Paul being in the sport. I think I don't know, man. Don't even get me started on that because everybody's just, but it's great for the sport. No, it's not. How are you a fighter that's 27-3 and Jake or Logan Paul are going to step right in and get a bigger payday than you've seen your whole effing career? How are you content with that? How are you going to be content if somebody like Justin Bieber comes up and takes your slot on a major card that you've worked your whole life for? Sensationalism of a sport is one thing, but you can't take away from the people that dedicate their life. You brought up Nick and Nate Diaz. I was a personal photographer. I created one of their first apparel lines, and I got in an argument with Nick. And he texted me till 4 o'clock in the morning. And Adam, you know me quite well. Ain't nobody gonna talk to me like that except for my mama. I don't give a crap if you're Dana White, Scott Coker, whoever. Ain't nobody gonna talk to me the way that Nick Diaz, did. And I kind of gave him the middle finger and kind of, just told him to jump off because he told me, when I call you, you answer. I don't care if I tell you to jump, you hover. And I said, yo, whoa, hold up, homie. I said, last I looked, you wasn't my mama. And my mama's the only one that's going to talk to me that way, son. I said, you can go F yourself. And I think fighters like that have given the sport a bad name. We talked about Mayhem Miller before. I think celebrities and sensationalism sells, and I think it's a needed aspect to the sport. But what about the people that are laying the stones in this path for the next generation? Don't they deserve credit too?
Yeah, and that is so very true, man. And this leads to that antitrust lawsuit, man. I think that is the greatest thing in MMA up to date. The antitrust lawsuit. All these fighters that you mentioned, that's paved the way, man. They deserve their respect. They deserve a stipend, a severance package for all the carnage they've been through, all the fights, all the lost memory and neurons and all that. They deserve to be paid for that. I mean, every fighter who has given at least 5 or more years to the company got to get looked at. Even 2 years, man. At least 2 years in the company, got to get looked at. You got to give them something, man. And the longer they've been with the company, the more money they should get when they leave. It's very important. It's very important. And I really hope these fighters win this antitrust lawsuit, man, because that would completely change the game.
Kung Lee won the first leg of it. Kung Lee won the first leg of it. And, as you guys know, Kung Lee is a very good brother of mine. And he's been fighting for years. They did this under secrecy for such a long time, but now it's finally coming out. They won the first leg of this antitrust lawsuit, and I think it's right that fighters get justified. I really do. I got a message yesterday that Leon Spinks was put back in the hospital. You know, People don't realize that I've worked with Ring 10, Ring 8 in the boxing world. They don't realize how many cards that we give out to fighters that don't have money to eat. They don't have money to pay their rent. You, because you gave me the gumption to get into the sport, and it's like, I know you guys are mostly UFC and wrestling and things of this nature, but you go to James Lights Out Tony. He gave me a moniker, Dandy Don. Do I like it? Hell no. But when somebody like James Lights Out Tony comes on your show and goes, Dandy, Dandy, Dandy Don, and he says, that's your moniker, you're going to live with it. Those are the moments for me as a journalist that means something. And James Tony isn't going to go out of his way to give just anybody a moniker. See, I think people don't give the sport, the athletes, and the true people that truly inspire to be the greatest in the sport their just deserves. And that's why I brought up the Jake and Logan Paul and Justin Bieber and all these things. You got one of the Pauls saying he can knock out Conor McGregor. Bro, if I want to go to the circus, I'll look up Barnum and Bailey, bro.
Well, even that is out of business.
That's my point. Do you agree with me at a point in time that people are going to get tired of these YouTubers coming into our sport and trying to steal the limelight from deserving fighters?
Hey, look, man,
No.
just like the Diaz brothers said, hey, pretty soon somebody's gonna catch you on the streets and make it right. You know what I'm saying? I can respect these guys. Actually, I can't respect these guys talking smack. You know what I mean? You don't talk about a Conor McGregor and his wife. You know what I mean? If you were a real fighter in UFC and you want to say that, so we know for a fact that fight's gonna happen. But if you some dude off of YouTube, off of social media, and because you have a platform to say something, you think it's okay for you to say something to a real fighter? You know what I'm saying? Like I can't stand folks like that. Like it's gonna come down. Somebody's gonna catch one of these dudes on the streets and make it right. I can see that happening. You know what I mean? In the near future, it's gonna happen.
Tell me, when was the last time Nick and Nate Diaz could put together a full sentence?
It's been a while.
I've never heard
I'm
it.
sorry.
I've never
I
heard
had
it.
to go there.
I've never heard it, actually, to be honest with you. My take is, right, going back to Jillian Robertson, right? So
Okay.
the thing about it is, okay, yes, you have a platform, right? So what you do with that platform, right? And the fighters that I interview, I kind of tell them, like, essentially, you are the CEO of your own company, right? And it's you and you alone, not a manager, not your coach, that's going to determine whether that's you're the CEO of a $1 billion company or a $0 company, right? So, with that all being said, I guess the Jillian Robertson, like, whatever she wants to do, right? But to me, if you're gonna, like, okay, CM Punk, right? CM Punk got more money than, like, literally, like, everybody that wasn't in the main event, right? Everybody under CM Punk in the 2 fights that he had in the UFC, he made more than the entire roster in each fight, right? Both guys and gals on each side of the card and everybody under him. So with that all being said, not to say that's right, but I mean, if, like you mentioned, the antitrust lawsuit and all of this, right? So in terms for that to happen, right? You essentially have to have all of the boys, all of the girls working together, right? Did CM Punk after the CM Punk experiment happened? Did we have one fighter, male or female? Hell, we'll throw Fallon Fox in here, right? Transgender. Did we see anyone boycott a ticket to the UFC after that? Somebody that has, again, pledged their life and their livelihood, made the sacrifice to get to the UFC, right? The pinnacle of the sport in many people's eyes, right? After that, right? I mean, we just saw not too long ago, Dana White tells Curtis Blades after Brock Lesnar comes into the cage after the DC Stipe Miocic fight, and Curtis Blades wanted to get all mad and whatever. I'm a martial artist. I'm a martial artist and whatever. Dana White told him point blank, "Is like, you want to be a martial artist? That's good for what? Teaching judo at the local strip mall to kids. Not in my organization, right?" So, and again, I'm all for the fighters getting paid, every one of them, male, female, what have you, right? But you got to have, to me, we're in a situation. I mean, obviously in 2020, this is a weird year, but theoretically, this Olympics, should it have gone on, would have been one of the first Olympics that didn't have wrestling, right? Essentially, one of the very sports that has been carried over in some form or fashion from ancient Greece and the original Olympics, right? And that was on the chopping block because it didn't get the views, right? Walk running, which is the most ridiculous damn sport that I've ever seen, aside from fucking curling, right? That is
Don't
still.
be knocking on curling, bro. Don't be knocking on curling.
I'm just saying. But walk running. When they had the Paris incarnation, they were going around the damn Champs Elysees and walking like their fucking asses out and shit like that. That is making the cut, but wrestling isn't, right? So if the International Olympic Committee can literally take out wrestling, that means that everybody's subject, right? So to get the pension plans after your fight, right? To get the Chuck Liddell to never fight again, right? You have to have viewership, right? So I think it's a weird, convoluted, but yet delicate dance between promoter and fighter and trying to get it, right? And again, Dana White this year said, hey, this is not a career. This is an opportunity, right? So why give your life, again, the knocks on the head, the fucking, the scrambled medulla oblongata and shit like that for an opportunity? Is it worth it? Right? I mean, that's debatable to each person. So with that all being said, it's things that will kind of carry you over, things that you're doing when you're not fighting. Again, I'm sure Jillian Robertson, Rachel Ostovich, I mean, you go down the line, Mayhem Miller when he was doing Bully Beatdown, I'm sure their coaches were like, fuck, don't do that. Was Jason Mayhem Miller's coach? And I hate using that deal because he's, but for example's sake, was Mayhem Miller's coaches making MTV money? No. Is Rachel Ostovich's dad making what she's making in terms of, revenue outside of her fighting prowess? I mean, again, you want to be frank, one of the reasons why she's in the UFC is because she looks like she does, right? She has a lopsided record in the UFC, right? So
can I jump in there real quick? I don't think Rachel and Bob Ostovich, I love you to death, brother. You're my boy. But you go back to Christine Feria versus Rachel Ostovich and Invicta Fighting Championships. Here you got a virtually unknown making their debut in Invicta Fighting Championships, destroys Rachel Ostovich. The only reason Rachel Ostovich got brought up to the UFC is because it was slim pickings at Invicta. They had to fulfill the roster, and so they pulled. Because you also know I was an Invicta photographer forever. I shot I made 33 or 34 of the 40-something events. And, that's where I met Andre KGB Lee, Rachel Ostovich, Michelle Watterson. And, out of all of them, they've all been disappointments to me, except for Andre KGB Lee. You look at Michelle Watterson. What has she really done in the sport? You look at Rachel Ostovich, the UFC cutter. Why pull up people that aren't deserving? See, this is the thing that a lot of people disagree with me on because I'm straightforward. But, I think people have to define themselves before they get pulled up. Christine walked away from MMA. She found her foothold in bare knuckle boxing. Oh, I got to put my glass on, bro. Let me see that one more time.
Make them believe.
Oh, yeah.
Christine Freya. Shout out to Christine.
Yep.
Damn.
That's my girl. I mean, see, but most people don't realize I shot her in her Muay Thai aspect. I shot her in MMA. And still to this day, I just talked to her last week. She was supposed to come on my show last week. I didn't have a voice. Things didn't happen. My health has been pretty much on the down. But you know what? When you look at everything that we've talked about, and Dana White's so correct. Don't look at this as a career. Look at it as an opportunity. And the reason I say that is you look at James Krause, you look at Zach Cummings, just two fighters. Okay, they're millionaires. Why? Because they took that money, they invested it, and reinvested it. And they bought houses, they bought, Metro PCS stores, they bought Airbnbs, now they don't have to rely on the revenue of their gyms because they've got houses that they own, they've got businesses that they own, and they're in their 30s. Hell, James Krause is the same age as my son, 34. I wish my son was a multimillionaire. But James Krause and Zach Cummings at a very early age decided they weren't going to take other people's money to create their dream. They were going to use the money that was being given to them to become something better in the sport. And I think those two individuals, a lot of fighters, even the ones that are older than them, could take a page out of their book and go, dude, this is where I messed up. This is where these two young cats showed what Dana White is talking about. You could willfully make a future, but not off of fighting.
Yes.
It's here. Here's where you make your money. It's how you spend it. And James Krause and Zach Cummings are two of the greatest aspects. Conor McGregor, most people don't like him. But, you got Proper 12, you got him donating money, you got him creating other promotions that he doesn't always talk about. You got to take what you've made off your name while you can and invest it because, hell, just in life, we're not promised tomorrow. We're not even promised 10 minutes from now. But the smart individuals will succeed. You look at, oh my God, Burt Watson. He was the manager for Smoking Joe Frazier. But a lot of people don't know that he was the head of Levi Strauss & Company's textile division. Wow. He walked away from that to become the babysitter of the stars for the UFC. But he was already established. That's why he had the opportunity. He had already created a name in the boxing world. He rose to the top in the business world with Levi Strauss & Company. And then he became a babysitter of the stars. And let me tell you, when Burt Watson put his foot down, brother, you're going to get his foot up your ass. Burt comes on my show quite a bit. And I think a lot of people need to look back at the way this sport was founded, created, and grew. And I think it would be a really good retrospect for their careers moving forward.
You are 100%. Once again, man, you're on point. You're not giving a damn. You're dropping mad knowledge left and right. Mad knowledge left and right. And I agree with you 100%. Everything you said. This MMA is turning out to be like football and basketball. The money makers, they're not spending their money correctly, man. They're buying expensive cars and expensive jewelry instead of taking that money and letting that money work for them. They're wasting it. They're wasting it. And you mentioned Conor McGregor, and no one actually Conor McGregor's gold standard of what a fighter should be. Yeah, he does a lot of talking to promote the fights or whatever, but what's he using his money for? You know what I mean? From the very first bonus that he got, by the time you saw him the next time, he's already using that money to do something for him. Money making money. You know what I mean? And then from that, he get another bonus. He continuous investment was what the guy did. Yeah, he bought a suit here and there so he can look good in front of the cameras, but the dude is not spending what you think he's spending. After he built his company, then he started doing things, spending money in such a way that it looks like he's wasting it, but he's really not. He's getting tax cuts or what do you call that? Tax credit for all of it. Yeah, man. He's buying all those Rolls Royces in the name of his company. You know what I mean? He's not paying cash for that. The company's paying for that, and he's getting his tax money back. So people need to understand the difference between that. And I think this is what's missing in sports, period. Financial educators that can teach these dudes what to do with their money when they make it. You know, you don't really need a whole lot of money to start, just like buy a house. You know what I mean? If you have 20 to 30,000, like let's say some dude gets a fighter bone and he gets $50,000. Take that money and buy yourself a property. You know what I mean? Get a property and get that going. If you're gonna rent it out and keep living in your apartment. Rent that out. That's money making money. You know what I mean? Whoever's going to rent that property will pay it off for you while you live in your little apartment. You know what I'm saying? And that apartment could be your office, and then you don't have to pay rent. So these informations need to be taught to these young fighters. You know, they don't seem to understand. You know, they think going out there and buying motorcycles and all this things that's taking money out of their pocket and not bringing it back is the way, but you know.
Well, look at Errol Spence. I mean, come on. Look at Errol Spence. A year ago, he rolled a $500,000 car. You know, and I was talking, I'm not going to bring up the fighter. Well, I'll say it because I don't think he'll mind. I was talking to Scotty the Bulldog Olson, a two-time world champion in boxing. He said, man, I didn't make $500,000 in my whole career. And here he rolled a $500,000 car. You know, and bro, honestly, if I had $500,000, I'd still drive the $25,000 car that's sitting in my garage. You know, and I'm investing the rest. You know, and I just think there needs to be a side added to the sport where there's a financial advisor that isn't going to dig into the fighter's pocket. Somebody that's going to teach them how to invest and divest their money, you know, and I'm going to say it. I'm sick and tired of these damn coaches and management companies taking 20 to 25%. You know, see, this is a part of the sport that most people don't realize. Let's say I get offered $100,000 to fight. By the time I'm done paying for my training camp, my meal preps, my massages, everything, I'm lucky to see $14,000, $15,000. I can make more working at fucking McDonald's.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, bro. You're out there getting your brains beat in, and the dude at McDonald's is making just as much money as you.
Yep.
I mean, it's the truth, you know. And the sad thing about it is, the way this sport is going, we have to start taking care of our athletes because we've got some tremendous athletes coming up. We got some kids that really believe in this sport. They live this sport. And some of the older examples aren't really good examples for the future. You know, we talked about Nick and Nate Diaz. I sure as hell wouldn't want my fighters looking up at them. Mayhem Miller, we talked about that. I wouldn't want my fighters looking up at them. You know, there's a lot of effort that's put into the sport But I think, like I said, I think we need to find, like Kung Lee says, a middle ground. Somebody that's going to take care of the fighter, but not dig their hand into their pocket. Somebody that they can trust that's going to help ensure a future. You know, whether it be taking part of their pay and putting in a divestment or investment fund,
Right.
or just putting it away. You know, something has to be done because, you know, there's a lot of these kids that truly dedicate who they are to becoming a world champion. And I think when, you know, I had a scientist on my show that doesn't do anything on social media, it's all for research. You know, people think that weight cuts are the hardest thing on a fighter. The weight cut isn't the hardest thing on the fighter. It's the massive rehydration. Now, look at it this way, okay? Go back to Sajara Eubanks when she had to cancel out because her kidneys failed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, horrible. She could have died from that.
Yeah.
But think about the fighter that makes it through that weight cut. Now you're trying to put 20, 30, 35 pounds on in 25 hours. Basically, what you're doing is you're taking away all the fluid away from your brain. So while you're sparring up till fight night, you got your brain just going around in a dry head. Then what happens after, okay, you weigh in, you rehydrate. That's where the most damage occurs because not only are you rehydrating and gaining back, but you're putting pressure on the brain. You're putting so much fluid back into your body that your body cannot absorb the intake. So what you're doing is you're causing slight reticular hemorrhaging in your head. You're causing other major medical issues. Your kidneys can shut down from massive rehydration. You know, and a lot of people don't realize that when a fighter signs their name on a contract, that means they're willing to die for your enjoyment. And I think the fighters need to be compensated for that.
Yes.
I really do. I think there's a loophole in this sport that many don't pay attention to. And it's really starting to disgust me. You know, me and quite a few of the legends of the sport were pushing for better incentives and pushing for a lot of objectives to move forward to help the fighters. But talk is cheap, bro. And it's taken us 10 years to get where we're at now with the Kung Lee, getting the fighters, you know, where they're at now. Why? Why? You know, it's explain to me why I could be Anthony Joshua and walk out and get paid $38 million to fight, but yet I could be Anthony Pettis or whoever, and I'm lucky to get whatever to fight. You know, why is there such a difference between sport to sport? Why am I a guy throwing a ball in a little hoop and getting paid, you know, $55 million over 3 years, and you've got a guy that's in the octagon getting the shit beat out of him for $3,400? Explain that to me.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Very, very true. Very, very true.
Yeah, I mean, there's some circumstances. There's some circumstances, but I mean, in terms of circumstances, right? I mean, we have the third fight of the night. Voodoo, you want to pronounce this one for me? Thank you, good
I
sir.
forget the name.
I know it's Stefan. Is it Chukwi? That's what I'm going
Something
with.
like that.
So Stefan Chukwi against and Mr. Chukwi. If I'm pronouncing it, I'm sorry, but he won a unanimous decision over Jamie Pickett. Essentially, Stefan extending his win streak to 5-0. Any thoughts on this one?
Well, that particular matchup, man, just like we talked about, when you have an individual who comes from a third world country who's been to hell just to make a living, just to live, you know what I mean? been through hell to live. And then you have someone from the first world who's had electricity, who's had flowing water through the faucet. You know what I mean? These things we tend to take a not really, what's the word I'm looking for? We take for granted. We take these basic things for granted, but in some countries, these people don't have this. You know what I mean? And when you've been hardened by life like that, and then you get in a cage, you bring you bring all that with you. So when you come to a cage and then you see resistance, the dude from the third world country more than likely will overcome that resistance. High probability of overcoming that resistance when you get in that cage. You know what I mean? And that's what you saw. Pitt was good. He did what he had to do, but the persistence of the African was just unyielding. And, you know, he did enough to win the first and the third round, and that's what you had.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Don, any thoughts?
Like I told you, bro, I really can't really perplex my thoughts on the undercard because I really didn't pay too much aspect to it. Because you know, I'm not gonna lie, my love is in boxing. You know, MMA is my second love, and you know, I'm not gonna add value to something that I'm not 100% sure on. You know, so I'm probably not gonna stay on here that much longer. I'm gonna let you guys get back to you know your breakdown of last night. But before I do, I wanted to bring up just a situation, and I'm sorry to your fans, but we want to bring up this situation that me and Adam talked about the other day. Uh, you know, I think I shocked Adam when I brought up Pat Patterson when he died, and we started talking about Pepe Gomez and Andre the Giant and Haystack Calhoun and the Count, and Adam's like, whoa, wait a minute. How do you know about Pepe Gomez? You know, how do you know about this? And when I was a young kid, you know, we used to have this place in Sacramento called Channel 40, and at the television station, they used to have wrestling every weekend. And I remember when Pepe Gomez had the Volkswagen drive on top of his stomach so he could prove he had the hardest stomach in wrestling. And, you know, those are moments that will always sit near and dear to my heart, you know, and it's funny because a lot of people don't know the wrestling side of me. You know, I shot a lot of Kimbo Slice's fights, but what we would do is the night before we would have a show, and you remember from MTV, the Half Pint Brawlers.
Yes.
And we would always have them the night before. And so I got to hang around with Puppet and Ricky and everybody. And, you know, I got to tell you, I really fell in love with wrestling when it came to the Half Pint Brawlers. And I'll tell the story and then I'll bounce off and let you guys get back to your breakdown of the UFC. But I picked these guys up in the limo van with the driver at the airport. I saw 10 guys on crutches, walkers, armband crutches, wheelchairs. And I was like, how in the hell are these guys going to wrestle tonight? And, you know, I'm sitting there going, this is going to be a freak show. You know, it was like my first time meeting them. Don't ever take them to Taco Bell, by the way, because they'll break your billfold, bro. But you're like, how's a 3-foot dude eat $90 worth of food? They can't. But what amazed me, I had to go buy the props for this event the first time that I met them. And so I went to a billiards place. I bought the pool sticks. I went to Home Depot and bought the trash cans, the ladders, the staples, and everything. You know, and everybody says wrestling is fake. Yes, it is scripted to some point, but I got to tell you, the pool cues were real.
Mm-hmm.
The staples were real. But what amazed me was come showtime, these little guys weren't on walkers.
Yeah.
They weren't on canes. I don't know what they took to get out there, but as soon as their name was called, they come running out of the back like a little bat out of hell, and they put on one hell of a show.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Whether people want to consider it sports or not, that's up to them. But they're true athletes.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with wrestling really at that point because I know what it is to get out of bed and at 56 years old and feel arthritis and feel the pain. And for these guys to get up and jump from 30 feet in the air and land on top of each other, I don't care how scripted it is, you're going to freaking hurt.
Respect.
So I just want to say, if you don't believe that wrestling deserves a place in the sport, don't listen to my show. Don't listen to me. I could give two craps. But I want to get around to one last thing because I think it's very relevant.
Yeah.
You know, Adam, I met you quite a long time ago. And
We're going on 5 years now.
What was that?
We're going on 5 years about
Yeah,
that.
just about. You know, and where you've come from, bro, it's just truly amazing. You know, I remember our talks in the early days where, you know, it's like you feel like nobody is listening. You look at your numbers, and the words. Hopefully, you remember the words. I said, "Man, you build it, they will come." You know, don't give up, keep pushing. Because I remember when I started out with ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, I did a show with Chris Matthews from Hardball when they tried to get into the sport of MMA. And I said, screw all this, I'm going out on my own. And I would do a show and I would wait 3 days for the demographics because my show is a real radio show, and I go on demographics. And I'd be disappointed. I'd see 75 listens. And, you know, here I am, 16 years later, I'm getting 1.3 million listens to show. Brother, I'm proud of you because, you know what, those days are going to be coming for you. You know, perseverance is the key to success. You know, don't ever set boundaries on yourself. Adding voodoo to the show, tremendous, bro. Because when you add variance, it opens the show to different perspectives, different audiences. And why do I watch you guys' show? Because there's 99,000 shows out there that are fucking sane. And you two are breaking the mold, especially you, Adam. I'm truly proud of you. And I look forward to your future episodes, man. I'm truly honored to be able to come on here tonight and shoot a little shit with you guys. I know you guys got a lot more to get on to, but people, Voodoo in the Woods, According to Woods, y'all got to check it out. I'm going to be pushing you on my fan base because I truly believe you deserve the recognition because you guys put in a lot of work. You guys put in a lot of work and it needs to be justified. So I'm truly honored. You know, 5 days before Christmas, you guys gave me the greatest Christmas gift ever. You know, be able to come on the show with you, talk a little, you know, a little bit of sports, a little bit of smack. But reality is what it is.
That's right.
You're doing it, brother, and I'm proud of you. God bless you. I just don't think enough people tell each other, you know, what they need to tell each other in life. And I'm truly a humble man. I speak the truth, and if a lot of people don't like it, you know, I'm not going to lie to get you to like my show. I'm not going to lie to get you to appreciate me. You know, Chris Brandon says it the best. If you don't want to hear the truth, don't ask me.
That's right.
And
That's right.
Voodoo, it was an honor, man. You know, I watch you every week with. Oh, y'all are a tremendous pair. You guys have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
God bless you.
God bless you, and thank you. I love you, Don. But before you go, we can't let you run out of it. Where can people find The Fighter's Voice with Don McGuire?
Well, actually, we just went into dual syndication. You can find me on iHeart, Univision, and Castbox FM radio transmitter. but I also went into syndication in the Philippines. A good friend of mine that created Katy Perry, Britney Spears, Chingy, Nelly, and the Saint Lunatics moved to the Philippines. They opened a radio station down there. They went into worldwide syndication. They offered me a contract, and I picked up a dual syndication worldwide. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be unveiling that format. And bro, everything I ever fought for, everything I ever dreamed for, those dreams are coming to you too. Just keep it up. Like I said, you build it, it will come, brother.
That's right.
God bless you both.
God bless
Thank
you.
you.
Have Merry
You
Christmas.
and your family.
Thank you, sir.
Hey,
Thank you, sir.
love you guys. Peace out, man.
Love you, Don.
Yeah.
Thank you to the fighter's voice is Don McGuire for joining us here at Voodoo in the Woods. But we still got more show for you, so don't leave, because we got again, and again that was an amazing run in from Don McGuire. But I mean, he mentioned Jillian Robertson. Well, she lost to one Talia Santos, and I think we said it here. Just upon appearances on their topology pages, respectively, that we were like, yeah, you know what? Jillian Robertson probably doesn't stand a chance. Yes, she has good jiu-jitsu, but there's something about Talia Santos that's completely different, and we saw that last night. Voodoo, your take.
Well, jiu-jitsu is a great thing. Don't get me wrong. I love jiu-jitsu. I enjoy doing jiu-jitsu. I enjoy training with my coach, you know what I mean? Learning new jiu-jitsu techniques and all that, you know, with a little twist of wrestling. But when it comes to real fighting, wrestling is the key. Wrestling is the key. You can use jiu-jitsu to win, as we saw Mr. With the flying triangle, he finished with.
Oh yes, Jimmy Flick, and again, we're exactly, grappling is in the transition is the most technical part of grappling, and the most tiring too. And if your technique is a little off, that's where you got caught. Thank you, Jesse. But that is essentially exactly. So, what say you?
So if you're gonna be on the ground with your back on the floor, you know what I mean. The jiu-jitsu folks understand that the guard is a dominant position, but your average Joe does not understand that the guard I mean, when someone's sitting in your guard and they're punching down at you, it looks like they're the ones in the dominant position. You know, if you have it in your guard, you're on your back, they're throwing punches down at you, it looks like they're winning. So if the judge is gonna give Santos the win, I understand why. And Santos wasn't really looking for that ground at all. She was trying to stand and strike. And it makes sense for Julian to take it to the ground. But then, you know, being on the ground on your back, it's not the best way to win over the judges. And, you know, someone who is a veteran of the sport, I'm expecting to already understand this. And you know, it is what it is. She didn't take much damage. She controlled her opponent very well on the ground, but at the same time, her opponent looked busy or busier than she did off her back. So if you want to take someone to the ground, you got to make sure you're in side control or full mount. You know what I'm saying? At least in half guard or quarter guard or something. Be in a dominant position, man. Don't. I don't know what else to say, man. I don't hate jiu-jitsu. I like jiu-jitsu. I love jiu-jitsu. But in MMA, jiu-jitsu alone is not going to get you anywhere.
Nope, absolutely. I remember my first jiu-jitsu coach, Matt Baker, him saying position over submission, and as you were alluding to, you know, that's kind of where Jillian kind of messed up. She thwarted her own dealings. But yes, the days of being just a specialist, just being a knockout artist, just being a jiu-jitsu practitioner, just being a judoka, whatever your kind of speciality is, you know, and just relying on such of a thing to get to the elite of MMA or anything, but especially MMA, right? Because you could be like a hard-nosed boxer power puncher. That'll get you, you know, a couple knockouts in your highlight reel. That'll get you selling out Wembley Stadium if you're Anthony Joshua or what have you, a particular base, right? But within MMA, right? You look at Bellator, you look at Invicta, you look at, PFL, anywhere. You cannot be just a specific specialist and get to the pinnacle of the sport. So yeah, that was it with Julian. Now, what I will say, right, going back to the, if her, her attention, going into this fight was a little bit diverted and what have you. Again, as we saw it on the top of the card, Jose Aldo had a temporary tattoo and he got paid pretty handsomely for such of a thing, right? So again, this might not be the thing that's going to make your coaches proud, right? But essentially, you have to have a life outside of fighting, right? Now, where that happens, it remains to be seen. Nobody's gotten that kind of golden ticket. I think Connor is probably the greatest example and the closest to it, right? Because he's fighting Justin Poirier, right? But he took that Mayweather fight, and then he basically, I have a bottle of his whiskey, right? Proper 12, yeah, and it's great. I love it. I'm a whiskey guy. I love it, right? So with that all being said, you have to have something because you can't rely on just your fighting prowess alone, right? To get you to the promised land. So shout out to Jillian for doing what she feels she needs to do to kind of, again, make her brand a little bit more monetarily feasible than her fighting career. But again, it cost her big time this way, as Don McGuire alluded to. So, hopefully she gets a balance, and again, finding that balance, right? And as you guys were alluding to, in terms of like a fighter kind of compensation plan and having financial, advisory, that would be great for anybody that hasn't been punched in the head. And again, as we're finding out with CTE, right? Again, Bryant Gumbel's Real Sports, they did a piece. Their season opener was essentially, the effects of the positive effects of psilocybin mushrooms, right? To guys like the boogeyman Dean Lister and Ian McCall, right? And former football players. And again, we've seen in recent years, football players have essentially taken the place of 80s pro wrestlers in terms of the death rate, right? And that basically being alluded to and coming from directly the CTE that each individual person, not the player, not just the player, but the person goes through, right? So essentially, and theoretically speaking, right, that would work for somebody in sound mind, right? But the thing about it is, you have Donald Cowboy Cerrone, right before he had his wife, before he had his kids, he famously said, "If I see $50,000 in my bank account, I'm gonna fucking spend it." Right? So that, in theory, like, I love it. I love it, and I want the fighters to always make what they're just due. Because again, like Don McGuire, like you, Voodoo, had alluded to earlier, why does Anthony Joshua get X amount? What? Like you think of Dan Severn's career earnings for a person that has done both pro wrestling and MMA and just retired within the last 5 years, right?
Less than 100,000.
Right, exactly. And then Anthony Joshua. Hell, Andy Ruiz. Let's just throw Andy Ruiz there, right?
He's made at least $5 million when he fought Anthony Joshua that first time. He made at least $5 million.
Yeah, and that's not even talking about that UAE, overseas Saudi show. So again, so I don't know what the balance is. I really don't. But again, if Jillian Robertson had won last night, we'd probably be speaking a different tune, especially if she had finished. True. But again, what's that balance?
True. She's got the jiu-jitsu win, but jiu-jitsu alone ain't gonna do it for you, man. It ain't gonna do it because people are all you need to do is understand the principles of jiu-jitsu. Like if someone is grabbing my neck, I need to start watching out for a gi. If they're trying to straighten my arm out and separate it from my body, from my lats, they're trying to put me in an arm bar, a kimura, Americana, right? I don't even need to know which one you're trying to do. The fact that you're trying to separate my arm from my body, I need to bring that back. And already I've taken away 3 different submissions, right? Just understanding. Yep. If you can understand the basic fundamentals of jiu-jitsu, then you're not going to get submitted by a jiu-jitsu fella. And then now understand, you're punching this jiu-jitsu fella. That jiu-jitsu fella, when you hit him real good, he's going to turn into a brown belt. When you hit him again, he's going to turn purple. When you hit him real nice, he's going to go to blue. When you smash him real good, he's going to white belt. And then what do you have? What do you have? All these really, really very, very good jiu-jitsu guys. How come they're not in combat jiu-jitsu? You know why? Because when they get smacked around a few times, they turn into white belt. So when you look at something like this, why would you base jiu-jitsu to be your fundamental base in your MMA? Right? Right? Pulling guard doesn't work anymore, man. It used to work before, right? It actually worked just yesterday.
Jimmy Flick.
Flick.
Jimmy
Yeah,
Flick.
he pulled guard. Yeah, he pulled guard, but he went straight to a triangle, right? The guy that he was fighting was, I don't know where he was, because that should have never happened at in the UFC. You should never ever fall for that in the UFC. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. It happened. So there you go.
Yeah. And a nice little asterisk that we would want to point out that Jimmy Flick, another $50,000 to his name for that pulling guard triangle submission. So shout out to Jimmy Flick. I didn't mean it the way that it sounded to negate you. That wasn't my intention, but oh God, Jesus, that's me backpedaling. And then Shaman Steve, our good friend, says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen." And Don McGuire says, "Thank you, my brother." So thank you, Shaman Steve. Thank you, Don McGuire, for gracing us here at Voodoo in the Woods. And couldn't thank you enough for the kind words that you said as you were leaving. But we definitely have to revisit this, 100%. Absolutely. Now, speaking of Mos Def, right? Well, I mean, it wasn't Mos Def. It was like literally David and Goliath. We had Deron Wynn versus Antonio Arroyo. And my goodness, this one was hilarious, right? Because, like, my wife doesn't necessarily watch fights, right? Not that it was a prerequisite or whatever. It's just not her deal, right? She took one look at the TV and was like, how the fuck are they still fighting each other? And she cursed too. She's a Gentile. Like, it was just like, what? Like, whatever. And I think I had like the Rafa Esparza's commentary to watch along too, and it was just like, and in his chat, it was just like big guy, little guy. Like, it no longer became, Deron Wynn, one of the most talented grapplers, amateur wrestlers to ever come out of Gilroy and what have you. No. It was just like a big guy, little guy. So it was amazing how the fact that this was what was going on, and they were in the same weight division, right? Yeah. But Deron Wynn, I think the takedowns were essentially what sealed the deal for him. But to me, as somebody, and it's kind of crazy, we mentioned the Tito Chuck 3 card earlier with Don McGuire, right? And him interviewing Chuck. Well, lest we forget, Deron Wynn is literally the only person from that much babbled, much maligned Golden Boy MMA card at the Forum in Inglewood, California, that is on the UFC roster, right? That being said, just the height and and I'm not saying that he is not talented. He is, right? I mean, he's from Gilroy. Daniel Cormier now lives in Gilroy, California, right? He's training at AKA. So you couldn't be in a better position. But for Deron Wynn, again, this height differential is good. I think it's going to be too great. Do we get to see maybe he is, MMA's version of Chad Gable, right? Very short in stature, right? But has wrestling prowess, to in spades, right?
Mhm.
That could be it, and I hope so. But then again, with Chad Gable, Vince McMahon said, "Hey, you know what? Cut your hair, and we're gonna put some basketball shorts on you and call you Shorty G." And that is fact, right? So I hope the same thing doesn't happen to Deron Wynn, but I kind of fear, especially after I saw what happened last night, and literally Twitter, Facebook, everywhere that had the UFC Vegas 17 hashtag during this fight, the public conception is this going to be like, I don't know, and again, it I don't know. Like, there's more questions than answers. We already knew Darren Wynn is, one of the most elite grapplers that is on the UFC roster. By far, he was the best grappler on the Tito Chuck 3 card, right?
Mhm.
But what now, right? He's, I mean, visibly shorter than a lot of his division, even in the outside of the top 10. I think this could be real problems. But what say you, Voodoo?
What I saw yesterday was wrestling at its finest, right? I would rather have wrestling pedigree than a jiu-jitsu pedigree. If I had to choose one, I choose wrestling. And that's what you witnessed yesterday. Like I've been saying, all you need to know is if the guy's trying to separate your arm from your body, he's trying to attack your arm and submit you. Just keep your arms tight. You know what I mean? Mr. Wynn stayed in half guard the entire time. He secured the takedown, stayed in the half guard, and he won the match by staying in the half guard. He didn't do anything. He just laid on the dude the entire time. The dude that was comfortable on his back because he's a jiu-jitsu player. You know what I mean? He was comfortable on his back, but yet he couldn't get the submission because the guy he was trying to submit was too little. He was a little tiny dude. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And the dude was sitting right there on his hip. He can't get down there to him, because his wrestling is so solid. However, I do see this. If Mr. Wynn does not figure something out in the nearest future, he will get KO'd terribly. I saw lots of knee opportunities that could have taken his head off his shoulders that
Yep.
was never thrown. You know what I mean? A good boxer could have stopped him just by keeping multiple jabs and keeping that distance. You know what I'm saying? If he goes for the takedown, hit the angle. You know what I mean? Very simple. This guy that he fought yesterday, I don't even care to remember his name. This guy that he fought yesterday was not ready for he had nothing. He had no striking. Is pretty much where I'm going with this. Once Mr. Wynn gets in there against a very good Muay Thai artist, chances of his health failing him increases dramatically. Dramatically. He got in there with a jiu-jitsu player and he was able to win. You know what I mean? Neither one of them had very good striking. When they were on their feet, nothing was really happening. Wynn was smart enough to notice this, so he immediately, second and third round, started initiating a takedown and sleeping on top of his opponent. And that's how he won the match. But very soon, he's going to run into that person. He's going to time it really well and take his head off when he's going for that takedown. He's too small for that weight class. Way too small. The dude is my size, but he's so thick. You know what I mean? He's so thick. He probably walks around at like 230, man. You know what I mean? He's so big and whatever he walks out. I don't know. I'm just exaggerating. I'm just throwing numbers out there. But he's too big for his size. If you look at the body max index will consider him overweight.
Yes.
Will consider him overweight. I mean, look at the body fat that he was carrying around. The dude belongs in at least in 170-pound division, not where he fought.
At the very least.
At the very least, 170, 155 for that height. That's where he belongs. Otherwise, he's gonna get hurt.
Absolutely. So I just and Don McGuire says it best. You got to be multifaceted to compete in the sport today. And Deron Wynn, unfortunately, isn't. So I don't know, And I mean, for his size, theoretically speaking, he should be a flyweight. He should be a bantamweight, right?
You know what I'm
Is he
saying?
going to get there? Probably not. He's probably never been 125 outside of 5th grade, right? So shit, I was a fat kid. I was probably about that in 5th grade too. So Jesus Christ, So total disclosure. So yeah, to me, I just think there's some more questions than answers. If you're in Duran Win, and again, he's at AKA, right? He's got Javier Mendez and everything. If I'm Javi, I'm having a serious conversation with Duran, and we're like, yo, like, hell, fucking DC. DC was on commentary. I'm sure they fucking, talk shop after it. Him, Javi, and Duran, right? Shit, like a different weight class. And 170, that's a fucking murderer's row if there is one, right? So I don't want to see him at 170. Realistically, it's 155 below. For his height, 155 below. Is he ever going to get there? Probably fucking not. So what does that say about Darren Wynn? And it's almost like the Jimmy Smith, right? Right? Jimmy Smith, even by Joe Rogan's estimate, right, is the best analyst that is on commentary in all of MMA. And he still couldn't last more than a year in the UFC, right? So with that being said, Darren Wynn, what is his upside being in the number one, the premier, at least visibly, from the outside looking in, visibly the premier mixed martial arts organization in the world? And again, you're outside of your weight class. Like, where are we going? Right? Your boxing is not good. Your wrestling's on par. It's fucking great, but there's got to be more to life than that temporary high.
Look, man, there's only so far wrestling is gonna take you. You know what I mean? That the dominant base it's only gonna take you so far before you get really hurt. If Darren Wynn goes in there with any of the top 15, he's gonna get damaged severely. Right now, he can get away with that thing that he's doing. You know what I mean? He can get away for now, because even though he's going against top level athletes, he's going against people that are similar to him. You know what I mean? They haven't really put it together yet. They're good enough to be there, but they haven't really put it together yet on that highest level. You know what I'm saying? Not yet, not good enough to break into the top 15, but they're good in the 30 and the 25. They're okay there. But once you start getting to the 20 and the 15, then you got problems on your hand. That's when Duran, Mr. Wynn, is really gonna catch that damage. You know what I mean? That damage that's either gonna separate him from consciousness or separate him from the sport completely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I again, there's more questions than answers. I don't know. And I want the best for Darren Wynn. I like specialists that come to MMA, but like I would have better seen him go to an LFA, right? Kind of cut his teeth that way, right? I think he was maybe 2 or 3, wins away from getting into the UFC. If he had gotten 10-2, right? Because obviously, he was. Yeah. So he's literally like 0-2. Wait. No.
Yeah.
So actually, he's 1-2. He beat Eric Spicely at UFC on ESPN plus 12, and before that, he fought Filthy Tom Lawler on that Liddell Ortiz 3 card, and he did have So he was in LFA for 1 fight. He was in Bellator for 1 fight prior to the Tom Lawler. So, but I would have liked him to maybe win a championship in LFA before coming to the UFC. And again, that's saying a lot because I don't know if he could have, won a championship there. So I don't know about Darren Wynn, and that's sad to say. I kind of threw up in my mouth as I am saying that because I want the wrestler to win.
Yeah, but when you think about it, his wrestling is that good, such that he's in the UFC strictly because of his wrestling only. His striking was garbage. Let's be honest. His striking was garbage. He didn't have a kicking game because he's so tiny, little legs. Yep. You know what I mean? There's no range of motion in his hips. But when it comes to wrestling, the dude's got it. He's got it, right? But then it's very easy to game plan against something like that. I mean, look at Ben
Yep.
Askren and George Masvidal. Very
Yep.
simple, man. Very simple. When you put a lot of pressure, he's gonna go for the takedown because this is what he's trained his brain to do all those years. Go for the takedown, and then what do you run into? You run into a terrible knee. And that terrible knee put him out of the sport. You know what I mean? Ben Askren is out of the sport because of that knee.
Yep.
He doesn't remember that knee hitting him. He doesn't remember that happening. You know what I mean? He can go and watch it on tape. He still would not ever be able to remember that happening because that piece of memory is gone forever. Because that collision, that knee hitting his head, was one of the worst things that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he was stiff as a board, stiff as a board. And this is what can happen to a win if he doesn't step up his striking game and balance himself out a little bit more.
Yeah, no, 100%. So again, more questions than answers. I hope the best, but I'm expecting the worst out of Deron Win. And again, 1 and 2. Dana wants to go, cut happy. So I mean, he might find himself outside of the UFC. So we will see. We will see. But one thing we did see was literally a battle of the black belts, and I'm glad that the commentary team picked up on it because Patty Kianzad and Sajara Eubanks, both black belts in their own respective uh, tutelage, right? Yeah, I mean, obviously Sajar under Lord Irving. Not too sure where Patty gets a black belt from, but still black belt nonetheless. And for me, there was a lot of fun scrambles, but Patty Kianzad essentially picking up the win, the unanimous decision win over Sajar Eubanks. Um, I got more. Where does Sajar go from here? She's literally 50-50, right? She's a 50, 6-6. That's her record right now. And damn, it sucks because she really needed that win. But Voodoo, your take.
Her last two fights have been competitive and suspect at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I didn't feel she lost that match yesterday. And the fight in Abu Dhabi, I didn't feel she lost that one either. You know what I mean? Her last two fights have been, I think she got to figure something out, man, and really come out in the third round and be destructive. She's not destructive enough in the third round. She's more
Yep.
patty cakey. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not. There is no intent to hurt someone really bad.
Right.
This is missing. You know what I mean? And I think that's the only thing that's holding her back. She put her game together pretty well. She's improved a whole lot. She's
Absolutely.
so much better. But at the
Mhm.
same time, her closing needs to improve. And the other lady seemed like she was trying to do something, but I didn't really see her doing anything. You know what I mean? She wasn't really doing much, but she looked busy. Because she looked busy, they gave her the round. You know?
Yep.
She didn't really do
No.
any damage. Her
No.
striking wasn't really there. The Sarge was doing better in the striking department than she was, putting those combinations together a lot better, and hands and feet. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But still, when you don't look menacing enough in the third, then they're gonna give it to the other person.
Yep. So again, I don't know. And, picking up that big win over the Raging Panda, Julia Avila, literally snapping her undefeated UFC streak. Sajar put a lot of people on notice, right? That might have forgotten about her. But, I mean, it's kind of been dashed now. One would even call it a fluke, that win. But, I mean, she did kind of piece up, not kind of, she pieced up Julia Avila pretty well.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I don't know. And again, Penny and I believe they were both on the same season of the Ultimate Fighter, but they're both Ultimate Fighter alums, respectively. But the fact that Penny had such a hard time with Sajar, is she going to be a top 15? Probably not. And that's crazy to say as somebody that has a 14-5 record coming out of UFC Vegas 17. But I mean, can she really hang? I mean, you got Amanda Nunes as the queen pin of that division. She's gonna get destroyed, complete and utter destruction.
Well,
If you,
what we've got
if you,
here are two gatekeepers.
yeah,
Let's be honest.
absolutely,
We've got
absolutely.
two gatekeepers. If you can beat those two convincingly, then you have a shot at the top 10. That's all that is. There's two ladies, the Sarge and the other lady. Right now, they're gatekeepers. They keep the division's gatekeepers. You know what I mean? They're good. They're very good, but then not yet good enough to break into that top 10 and be dominant in the top 10. You know what I mean? So whoever's going to
Absolutely.
show out in that division will have to beat them.
Yeah, and again, this is essentially Ultimate Fighter season 28 was where we first kind of got wind of Fanny, and I want to say that. Oh no, so they were on different seasons. They were on different seasons of the Ultimate Fighter, but yeah, but even still, I just it's a weird one. It's a weird one. So we will see what happens. But I mean, one thing that we saw happen was Anthony Pettis. I mean, in his last fight with the promotion at Shadow Win, and just to show you how long Anthony Showtime Pettis has been doing it, they obviously in his walkout were playing the Showtime cake. We were 10 years almost to the day. 10 years on this past Wednesday was essentially 10 years removed, the 10-year anniversary of Showtime, literally Showtime kicking Benson Henderson for the WEC title, right?
That's right.
And Alex Morano was somebody who, by his own self-admission, is a fan of Pettis, was, forever will be a fan of Pettis. And it's, I don't know if it showed, but Morano, first round, looked fabulous. That I was looking very weary at Anthony Pettis. My heart was breaking. Am I seeing somebody? Anthony Pettis is a legend. I mean, you don't get to be on the Wheaties box for nothing, and there hasn't been anybody on the Wheaties box since. So right, since, right, and wins over Cowboy Cerrone. That's
Two
big.
wins over Cowboys.
Two, right, exactly, right. So with that all being said, man, he picked it up because we saw flashes of the Pettis of old, a little bit wiser, a little bit longer in the tooth, but flashes of brilliance. We saw some flippy shit. We saw like a fucking standing sidekick. But I mean, none of them really connected. But your thoughts on this?
Like I told you on Thursday, man, Pettis, even though he's 50 years old in the sport, as you know, what I mean, his fight years, he's at least 50 years old. But the fact that he's that old and he continues to evolve with the sport, it keeps him in the game. It keeps him in the top 10 of the 155-pound division. You know what I'm saying? And I saw this little piece with him and Ariel Alwani in which he discussed his previous mindset compared to now. You know what I mean? He's seen a psychologist, I believe, or what do you call those people?
Yeah, sports psychologist.
Yeah, sports psychologist. So and this person has been helping him through his emotions, and there's been a sudden rebirth in him. He's found himself somehow. He's found a new him, right? So his skill is adaptable, right? His skill is adaptable, but now the mind is sharper, right? Which is always the hardest thing to keep sharp. So his mind is sharper because he's able to become honest with himself. You know what I mean? He's got, first of all, he's got people around him that don't take no nonsense from him. You know what I mean? They don't have a problem telling him like, "Hey man, you ain't shit," right? Keep it low. You know what I'm saying? You fucking up. He's got people like that around him. That's one. Two, he's good enough to learn from the current trend and jump on that bandwagon and catch that surf and surf his way in. You know what I mean? So his skill remained dynamic. He's been dynamic all along, but he's able to remain dynamic and even improve upon that. And we got to see that yesterday against Mr. Morano. You know, it was a whip kick, a spinning big whip kick that dropped Morano or put him in that bad spot before Anthony Pettis went in and put major tips on him. I mean, he still got the spinning shit, like I told you he was gonna have. He still got the spinning shit. You know what I mean? He still got blitzing speed, excellent kicks. Everything's on point. Morano has the same thing, but Morano doesn't have the spins. Right? Morano's not. He's got kickboxing that's finest, but he ain't got no whip kicks. You know what I mean? He doesn't have that traditional karate taekwondo style of expression. And this is this particular style that I just mentioned, the Kyokushin karate, the taekwondo, the Shotokan karate. These styles is what's coming into the sport and making like Brendan Royval shine and all these other dudes, right? That are dynamic strikers. It is this type of things that's taken him above to the next level. And Anthony Pettis, he's been spinning all his life. So for him to join that ranks of spinners was nothing to him. You know, even though he's 50 years old in the sport, right? Yeah, he's about 36 years old. But when you consider wear and tear, the man has fighted since he was like 17, 18, 19. You know what I'm saying? He's been a professional since that young. When you think about the wear and tear that he's got from that young age to like 36, 50 years old makes sense to me. You know what I mean? Because when you look at his brain, he's taking so much damage that when you look at his brain, it's going to be a 50-year-old's brain in there. But he's because he's able to adapt. And did you see the footwork? The footwork was flawless, man. The dude he wasn't staying in one spot for very long. You know, he kept moving. He's moving, switching stands, doing his thing, throwing whatever he needs to throw. And before you know it, that whip kick, he sees me. He set it up for 2 rounds.
Yes, he
set that
did.
whip kick up for 2 rounds, man. When he was sure that he was going to be able to see the same thing and have his opponent in that perfect spot, boom, the whip kick came. He glanced his Scully, and that's all you need, man. When it heel, it hits like a hammer. When you spin the heel, man, you hit with such torque. It hits like a hammer. The dude was lucky that it skinned him. If it hit directly to the temple, he's going out. Remember Terry Etcham? That's what happened to Terry Etcham.
Yeah, I'm right.
He took the direct spinning wheel kick to the head and
by
shut out his career. His career was over after that. You never saw Terry Etcham in the cage again. But where you did see him is on a cornering somebody. You know what I mean? These kicks are devastating. The spinning kicks are devastating, man. If he would have got hit with a spinning roundhouse, then I'd be like, okay, he'll come back. But the spinning heel, man, there ain't no coming back from the spinning heel kick.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that you liken it to a hammer. That's like if you fucked up with the cartel, you getting hit with the fucking, you get hit the heel with the fucking head. It's not nice, and it will always guarantee night, for whatever recipient, one unruly, unfortunate recipient of such a move. So, shit, man. I mean, that's it. Now, the big question is, where does Anthony Pettis go from here? Because, again, after this, he's a free agent, right? He can join his brother Sergio in Bellator. He is essentially starting his own promotion. Don't know if that's amateur or pro. Don't know the gist of it. But, I mean, could he do a Vern Gagne? I mean, he is in Milwaukee, after all, and essentially crown himself a champion and then take on all comers and essentially be the centerpiece of your own promotion and bring credibility. That could happen, right? Yeah. Could he go to Bellator and have a payday along with his brother Sergio? Yeah. I mean, not just Sergio, but Rafael Stotts, who's also his teammate at Bellator, and at Rufus Sport, is in Bellator. So, that could happen.
The fact that Anthony Pettis and Sergio Pettis are dynamic strikers, it's going to keep him in the sport for at least 2 to 3 more years before the next wave of dynamic striking comes forth. But for right now, He's doing well. You know what I mean? The only thing that will take him away from the UFC is if the UFC is not willing to pay what Bellator is trying to pay. You know what I mean? If that happens, then he'll leave the UFC, and he has nothing else to prove, right? He's been to the mountaintop. He's carried the title. He defended the title at the mountaintop. You know what I mean? There's nothing else for Anthony Pettis to prove. Yeah. He's a legitimate champion. You know what I mean? It's easy to win a champion. It's easy to win a championship, but to defend the championship is a whole another ball game. And that's why I give Brock Lesnar some kudos. He was able to defend that title at least twice. You know what I'm saying? I mean, defending once solidifies you as a true champion, but defending at least twice, you're legit. And then we talk about a John Jones that's been defending that title, what, for 8 years?
Yep, damn near a decade.
He's never lost to a man. They've taken the belt from him, and he's taking it right back. Don't tell me, Khabib, with 2 defense, that you're the greatest ever. I don't want to hear that, man. I don't want to hear that nonsense. Get that out of here. Get that out of here, man. Look. Khabib, he took off while he was on top because he doesn't want to lose. He doesn't want to put himself in that situation where he would lose. And Conor exposed him in that 4th round. And he jumped in that rear naked choke real quick because he understood that Conor was where he was brewing. He was that volcano that was brewing. You could feel the shake. You know when Hulk Hogan, he gets that second win and he starts to do that? He felt that. Yeah, he was hulking up. He felt Conor McGregor doing that. He was like, let me cut this out real soon before he catches a second win and knocks me the hell out. That's why Khabib bailed out of that match and took the rear naked choke when he took it. You know what I mean? Khabib said, and I'm quoting Khabib, said, I will change his face. I am going to change his face. This is blah, 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 blah. I change his face. Conor looked exactly the same when that match was over. You didn't change nothing. Nothing. And then you want to jump the cage and go after Dylan Dennis? Get the hell out of here, man. Get the hell out of here. You want to go after Dylan Dennis? What? Come on, man. Dylan Dennis? You said you was going to smash McGregor and change his face. McGregor, you still got a whole nother 5th round to smash his face in. You took the easy way out in the 4th round by taking the choke. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to hear anything you got to say after that, man. I don't want to hear, I choked him. I took him out. He tapped. Of course he's going to tap. You choking a man out. Good for you. But you promised us, you said you would smash his face. That's what you said. I didn't say it. I didn't ask you to smash his face. You said you were going to smash his face, and you didn't smash his face. You jumped on the submission as quickly as you could, and you got the hell out of there. That's what you did. You saved yourself. That's what you did. You didn't fight like you promised you were going to fight. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it. Khabib, whatever you want to call your name. That's how I feel about it. And I'm still feeling a little raw about it. You know what I'm saying? You should have smashed his face like you promised, but you didn't do that. You went for the submission. You got out of there. You took the easy way out. And that's how I feel about it.
I agree with everything except the kebab. And what would Hulk Hogan do? He'd probably call us the N-words. That's what Hulk Hogan would do. But that's another story for another day. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes. That's while he's sleeping with his friend's wife. But that's another story for another day.
That was okay with it.
It was consensual. It was totally consensual. So makes it okay. But speaking of things that were consensual, that ass whipping, I was consenting of the ass whipping that Marcin Tybura fucking bestowed on Greg Hardy, the dribbling shit. Fuck. Again, I will reiterate it once again. I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm not an NFL person. I didn't know who the fuck Greg Hardy is. And again, if Christopher Curtis, listen to me, folks. If Christopher Curtis can break his hand in the opening stanza of his fight on Dana White's Contender Series, and still, with a broken hand, super kick the fuck out of his opponent and not get a contract in the UFC, then what the fuck are we doing? Right? Like, so again, Greg Hardy, I don't want to see you in my UFC. I don't want to see you in bare knuckle. I don't want to see you. I just don't. I don't want you to make TikToks. You're not a good person. You're not a good person. Yeah, I think you're an atrocity to the idea, the concept of MMA. Like, of every, you know, of everybody that talks about, the Paul brothers, and you mentioned Dylan Dennis because, I mean, Dylan Dennis was essentially the target of the Paul brothers this past week, getting assaulted with water balloons. But that's not here nor there. But again, at least the Paul brothers sell tickets. They sell pay-per-views. It's proven.
Yes.
Who the fuck has ever bought a pay-per-view to fucking watch Greg Hardy fight?
Well,
and
Greg
if
Hardy,
they did, what the fuck are we doing? What are you? Like, I'm going to you. What the fuck are you doing? Do you not know MMA? Do you? I don't know. Don't get me. Sorry. But I was happy. He got fucking knocked out.
Hey, Greg Hardy, there's flashes of greatness there. You know what I mean? The way he moved in the first round, he did very well in the first round. He won that first round. No. Like, legit, he legit won that first round by movement.
I agree.
I mean, if he would have carried on for 10 more minutes, he would have won that fight. Even though Tiberius is the better fighter, the more complete fighter. The footwork that Greg Hardy brought to the table, the choices of strikes that he chose were long-range strikes just to keep Tiberius away from Tiberius or whatever his name was, to keep him away. You know what I mean? He did that well. But then once he let Tiberius in, it was over. He initiated the takedown, and that was that.
I love the fact that you turned Marcin Tybura, the Polish Power, into a brother from South Side of Philly, Tiberius. I think that was like fucking Brodus Clay, the Funkadactyl. Remember? Right? After he left the WWE, he became Tyrus, and that was kind of where you're going with Tiberius. With that all being said, yeah, I'm not liking how I mean, literally how hard it was for Marcin Tybura to take out Greg Hardy. And again, even though what we said on Thursday, I'm still looking at you, Marcin Tybura, to have like your hands full with Greg Hardy. Where are you in your career? Where are you in terms of your coaching? That you can, I mean, 7-2, Greg Hardy now, right? But he was 7-1 before, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those were ham and eggers. No disrespect, but a lot of those guys were cans. A lot of them. A lot of them were cans, right? Again, the reason we have, because of Greg Hardy, we have the fucking Belizean fella. Yoran De Castro. Yoran De Castro. What the fuck is Yoran De Castro? Yoran De Castro and I have the same body type. I am not in the UFC. We have the same skill set, it looks like. I am not in the UFC. Because of Greg Hardy, Yoran De Castro is in the UFC. So, Greg Hardy, I hold you fucking responsible for that shit-ass match that we saw on the last Fight Island. Good Lord. Good Lord. Jesus.
Hey. But in all seriousness, there's flashes of greatness in Greg Hardy. But what he is missing is a true fighter's heart. That's what he's missing. You know what I mean? He's got potential. He's got potential, but he doesn't have potential when it comes to trial by fire. You know what I mean? Like who is this? Who is that says Mayweather. Mayweather says any fighter can punch. Any fighter can punch somebody else, but can you take it as much as you can give it? Can you take it? That's what he told Conor. Can you take it as much as you can give it? You know what I mean? And it rings loud, man, especially in this particular matchup. Tiberius was ready to take it, and he took it. But then when it was time for Greg Hardy to be the one to take it, he covered up. And hey, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Instead of covering up, you could have used that time to try and figure out a way to get up. Put the man in your guard. From the guard, start working your way up. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna have to ingrain and throw himself in with a legit wrestler, a wrestling coach that's gonna push the hell out of him and take him to that dark place that he's never been. See, he got to that dark place yesterday, and his heart pounded. You know what I mean? His heart rate went up to 200, and he thought, "Oh my God, my heart's gonna beat out of my chest. Let me cover up and calm down my heart rate." See, Tony Ferguson a week before, his heart rate went to 300, and Tony said, "Yeah, give me more. Give me more. Snap my hand off, and I'm still here." See, that's the difference between Tony Ferguson and Greg Hardy. Tony Ferguson can beat Greg Hardy. That's what I saw. Hey, in the long run, Tony can win. If it's a 45-minute match, Tony can beat that guy. That's what I saw. Tony Ferguson can beat Greg Hardy.
Wow.
That's what I
the only thing that separates Tony Ferguson from Greg Hardy is just the beats per minute. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a fucking shit ton that separate Tony Ferguson from Greg Hardy. So yeah, no, and I agree. Fucking Jesus De Guerra, fucking Federato, throw his ass out. He fucking beats Greg Hardy 100 times out of 100. Benavidez, stick him in there. You fucking take one of the atom weights and fucking one. Angela Lee, one fucking atom weight champion. You stick her in there with Greg Hardy, she beats fucking Greg Hardy's ass all day. Like that fucking Russian chick and that 500-pound motherfucker that we just saw, the shit show. That's what happens to Greg Hardy. That's what happens. So, good
pressure,
riddance.
man.
Fuck off, Greg Hardy.
Pressure bust pipes. And Greg Hardy's pipes got busted.
Pressure turns coal into diamonds.
True. And that's when you have a Tony
Greg Hardy is no diamond.
No. He's a pipe that got busted.
He's busted. He's Dave Matthews album. He's busted fucking stuff. That's what fucking Greg Hardy is. So fuck off. Shit. I'm glad he got knocked out, but I'm looking at you, Marcin Tybura, or as the great voodoo matchmaker says, Tiberius. Tiberius, I'm looking at you.
Tiberius.
Tiberius. If you can't fucking finish Greg Hardy in the first round, what are we doing in the UFC? Good sir.
Yeah.
So
you're just another gatekeeper, brother. You're just another gatekeeper, Tiberius.
Yeah.
Gatekeeper.
So, gatekeeper. There you go. But shout out to Marcin Tybura. But fuck, we're talking about Rob Font. And I wanted to, here's the thing. A total disclosure, as Marlon Moraes was coming into the fucking UFC, as was Justin Gaethje, I really, really fucking wanted Marlon Moraes to be a fucking world beater, right? Like, I really wanted that shit to happen. And it hasn't ended up that way, right?
Hey,
and shout out to Rob Font.
Let me throw some dirt in here real quick, man.
Okay.
Let me throw some conspiracy theories in here, man. Outside of the UFC, testing is not that focused on. The UFC is the only federation that's implementing USADA, the Olympic level testing, drug testing. You know what I mean? So when you have that in play, compared to where he came from, compared to where he is now, you know what I'm saying? Even though he's still shredded and all, you know what I mean? To be shredded, you just need to get rid of the body fat. You know what I mean? He's still shredded and all that, but the cardio, you know what I'm saying, is non-existent like it used to be back in the days, you know? And he used to knock people out in the first. Yada. But, hey, man, the Mexican supplements ain't helping you here, man, because you can't use it. Them random testing, man. You know what I mean? Changes the game, brother. Changes the game. You know what I mean? Especially when you're as big as he is, cutting down to 135. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's gonna affect your cardio. And if it doesn't affect your cardio, you're either a special individual like Demetrius Mighty Mouse or Mexican supplements. It's either or, man. It's either or. And it's looking like or right now. That's just my guess. I'm just saying.
I mean, I again, I can't prove you wrong, so I'm not going to. So
And
you
you
know,
can't prove me right either. So
yeah,
it
I
is
know,
a
I know,
theory.
hundred
It
percent,
is a
hundred
theory.
percent. So I mean, fucking a. But shout out to Rob Font. And again, I knew something was up. When Thursday, right before we did this show, and they put out a fucking like a 10-minute piece, right? They put money, people to film it, people to whatever during a fucking quarantine, no less, right?
Hmm.
And they did a fucking 10-minute piece on the YouTube of the UFC, the official YouTube of a gym that literally only has two fighters, in the UFC. Which
Hmm.
again, as we saw last night, Rob Font is definitely, a willing recipient of it, and rightfully so, as is Calvin Cater, right? But
Hmm.
again, they didn't do that shit for the Diaz brothers, and then they did. They got all types of shit. So,
Hmm.
with that all being said, I knew like Font's stock in terms of the eyes of UFC is rising, much
Hmm.
like his teammate Calvin Cater, who they
Hmm.
were originally before they joined the same team. They were
Hmm.
originally supposed to fight each other on the New England scene. That
Hmm.
is fact, right?
Hmm.
So two guys burning up a trail in the same division, the 135 division.
Hmm.
So I mean, I knew, and damn it, did he look fucking dominant. First round, KO, TKO.
Hmm.
So shout out to Rob Font. I got nothing
Hey,
bad to say about him.
Rob Font went in there with understanding that this guy's gonna get tired. You could see when he took Rob Font down. Rob put the pressure on him by trying to get up,
Mhm.
and trying to get up. Moraes had to use more muscle to hold him down. You know what I mean? I didn't feel like his jiu-jitsu was that smooth. His wrestling was great. He was able to initiate the takedown and put him down real quickly. But then his jiu-jitsu, while he was on the ground, his transitions weren't that clean. And he was having to muscle too much, which caused him a whole lot of cardio. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And then once Rob Font felt this, he pushed his way back up. And once he got up, he brought in that New England boxing, that you know what I'm saying, that Irish like boxing, the New England boxing. He brought that in there, and he just initiated immediately. And he was landing vicious punches and kicks. And then before you know it, he landed the nice cross that put your boy out. And once he put him out on the ground and pound was a rest, and the referee saving him.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, I mean, shout out to Rob Font. That's a big win. I mean, theoretically, it's weird. So Marlon Reich is a world champion, literally, of a promotion that doesn't exist anymore because
Hmm.
it does exist. It's the PFL, but
Hmm.
he was the champion of World Series of Fighting,
Hmm.
and that so he's essentially a champion of a promotion that doesn't exist anymore. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean it's a big win for Font because I think
Yeah.
Moraes has proven himself to be a name. So yeah, man, fuck. So
Yeah.
going up, we're gonna go up. We got Chaos Williams versus Michel Piera,
Yes.
and fuck, man, this was check my Twitter, take a piss. After the first round, and we didn't see a Chaos Williams KO. I knew this shit was just like
It's gonna be a
this is
long day.
yeah. So I don't. I mean, Mike Michel did his spinny shit. It was way too late. Fucking, chaos wasn't chaotic enough.
Mhm.
I don't have too much to say about this one.
Hey, look, man. Michelle did exactly what he was supposed to win. You know, he didn't do any of that flashy nonsense during the match. He did them before and after the match. He didn't get stupid, which was what I was worried about. If you remember on Thursday, I told you if he does any of that stupid nonsense, he's gonna get caught. But he didn't do that. He didn't do that. He kept his head straight. He moved around a lot. He used his dynamic striking to a T, and he got the win. You know what I'm saying? He did everything right for the first time in his career. He did everything right. You know what I mean? And that fancy stuff is great, man. But don't do that during the match. When you do that during the match, you could cause yourself, a concussion. And he didn't do that. You know, he respected chaos enough not to try that nonsense. You know what I mean? And because he didn't try that nonsense, he was able to focus primarily on his dynamic striking, and he was able to get that off. You know what I mean? He hit the angles really well to escape chaos's power too. He hit the angles really well. He stuck and moved. The front kicks were beautiful. His front kicks were on point. It kept chaos back. You know what I mean? His roundhouse kicks to the leg, to the head, to the body was on point. His jabs and counters were on point. You know what I mean? Everything was great, man. His dynamic movement was on point, and he was able to beat the boxer in Chaos Williams based on that dynamic activity that he was engaging in. You know what I mean? It was quite clear that you got a guy using 5 weapons against a guy with 2 weapons, and that's how it ended.
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't say it's a win, a big win for Michel Pieta. I mean, obviously he shut down a little bit of Chaos Williams' hype, but again, Chaos Williams is 11-2 versus Michel Pieta, a 25-11.
Mm-hmm.
I still see Chaos Williams as somebody that the UFC is going to put marketing material behind versus Michel. So,
I mean, when you have a Chaos Williams with that kind of power in his hand, you got to respect that, and you got to push that. But at the same time, this is a dynamic era. If Chaos doesn't become dynamic, he's gonna be lost with the win or gone with the win, as they say.
Yeah, either way, lost in the win, gone with the win. I mean, one would be a Wizard of Oz reference. The other one would be the only black dude in Detroit. I mean, the only black dude in Africa is from Detroit, the piano player. That's the other reference. So, shout out to Humphrey Bogart. I don't think, which, I mean, speaking of shout outs, we are at the co-main events of the evening, where we had Marlon Chito Vera going up against Jose Junior Aldo, former UFC champion, former WEC Bantamweight champion, first ballot Hall of Famer, and I mean, literally the sleeper hit of the winner, and the fact that he was able to slide in an extra payday to, via temporary tattoo that fell off. Shout out to Jose for figuring that shit out. This one, as we, after the Rob Font Marlon Moraes fight, this was the only one that I was fucking really interested in. It went exactly the way that I thought it was going to go. No disrespect to Cheeto. I just think, I likened Jose Aldo right now to Eddie Guerrero, right? Eddie Guerrero, after he had his car crash, a self-inflicted car crash, one-person car crash in WCW, really was down and out. I'm not saying that is the case with Jose. He's not that at all. But what Eddie essentially did was he couldn't rely on youth or speed. He had to become a tactician, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like Donald Garr alluded to earlier, his chin is absolutely fucking gone, right? Jose knows that, right? So he has to figure out creative ways to earn himself a victory. In Eddie's case, Eddie fucking bulked the fuck up to hide himself from injury, right? Jose Aldo did every fucking thing else, right, to not get in wars, even though he got in one with Moraes. fade to black. Even though he got into one with Moraes, right? Um, he made sure that you know Chito Vera knew what was up, and I mean this was a beautiful fight. I don't think either man, looked bad. I think both men came out smelling like roses, but
Mhm.
I too, I'm kind of championing Jose Aldo retirement in
Mhm.
this day and age. I know he wanted to fight in 2021 into the new year, have at
Mhm.
least two more fights. I just what's again, this is somebody who has invested his money. He has a restaurant in Brazil. He is a cultural phenomenon in his
Mhm.
native Brazil, right? So
Mhm.
he's a father and a husband first. I don't. I'm good on Jose Aldo right now.
Mhm.
Like he doesn't much like you said with Anthony Pettis. This person is he's a bona fide Hall of Famer. He's a bona fide legend. He's a champion through it all. So why? I don't want to see Jose Aldo there again. Even if he wins, he gets a fucking stellar submission. He gets a fucking KO out of the night. I don't want to see it because what he's going to have to endure, I'm not looking forward to. So,
Yeah. Now, let's dive into Jose a little bit. Okay, let's dive into Jose. Jose, how did Jose win? Jose used his years and years and years of experience to steal that match yesterday. Jose, we know that Jose in the first and second round, he's always super. You know what I mean? He's got enough good cardio to push hard for the first two rounds. In the third round, he starts to fade. Fourth round, you know what I mean? If he's in there with a Holloway or someone who's going to push the pace continuously, then he fades against him, then he loses. Pietre again, same thing, right? But the first and second and third round against Pietre was great. And then he just lost, he went out of his sails in the fourth, and then he lost in the
yep,
fourth or something like that.
yeah.
And then now we have who did he fight yesterday?
Marlon Moraes. I mean, not Marlon
No, no,
Moraes.
no,
Tito
no.
Vera. I'm sorry.
Cheeto.
Good lord.
So now he's in there against
I'm an
Cheeto.
idiot.
You know, well, Jose brought back one thing that we haven't seen in a long time, which is the leg kick. You know what I mean? He threw a whole lot more leg kicks than he's used to throwing recently. That kind of changed the game a little bit. He threw a lot of boxing. You know what I mean? A lot of
Yep.
liver shots, a lot of shots to the liver and all that. He did that a little bit, but he stole round one with fast Muay Thai, that heavy base Muay Thai, that power Muay Thai. You know what I mean? He did that in the first. He did, you know what I mean? It was the second round was a toss up. The second round because Chito was trying to pick him apart a little bit here and there too, but then in the third round he was like, dude, I'm getting tired. Let me bring my jujitsu. He jumped on the back, put that body triangle in, and he wasn't going nowhere after that. You know what I mean? I mean, he controlled the match without doing anything for 5 minutes. And that's how he won. He won by using his brain. And that's only gonna take him so far, right? So at the press conference or post fight interview, he calls out TJ Dillashaw. He wants
Yep.
to see what it would be like against TJ. I like that. I like that. Young fighters, take notice. You know what I'm saying? Take notice. Even if he doesn't get that fight, the fact that he mentioned TJ Dillashaw's name, who's a big name, it's gonna get his name talked about. He doesn't
Absolutely.
even have to get the fight. Just the fact that he mentioned his name at the time that he mentioned it, people are gonna talk about it like we're talking about it right now. He might not get the fight, but he's still getting that airtime, that airplay that he would have never got if he said, I'm going to go think about it and talk to my wife and children. You know what I mean? It would have died right there. But the fact that he threw TJ's name in there, we're still talking about it. And we're going to talk about it until next week. You know what I'm saying? So that was very
Damn.
smart on it. That was very smart on his part. But what happens next? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah, I
sure
don't
what's going
know.
to happen next.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And that's the crazy thing about it. I fucking don't know. After this, right? The fact that there's more questions than answers. What happens to Chino Vera? What happens to Jose Aldo? That's it. spell retirement for one of them, right? Where does
Cheeto.
yeah
Cheeto,
yeah
Cheeto, Cheeto, Cheeto can still fight. He still got time.
no, but
Sit down.
for Aldo,
Yeah.
so we have the winner. Anytime that you have somebody on the hinges of retirement, right, and they beat somebody that has a little bit more steam in the tank or more gas in the tank theoretically in their career than the old wily veteran, then I just it doesn't, not to say that it doesn't look good for Cheeto, but I mean maybe it was just not stylistically, although at this stage of the game and his prowess and what he brings to the table, it still is some. It could still thwart a young gun like Cheeto Vera. So
Hey,
yeah,
but how about Jose Aldo's traps, man? Did you see that? That
yeah,
dude was shredded yesterday,
yeah.
man.
He looked like a
Shredded.
damn fucking,
Brick house, the juggernaut. He was so solid,
yeah.
so strong and shredded.
He literally looked like fucking
Yeah,
Vanderlei. This
yeah,
That's what Jose
yeah.
Aldo looked like. He looked like Vanderlei,
Hey,
but this is
Jose
an action
Aldo,
figure.
Jose Aldo looked like Vanderlei from back in Pride, and you know what was okay in Pride?
Yep,
Mexican
damn right.
supplements, baby, all
Yeah,
day. So is Jose partaking? Because he's looking better now than he did when he was younger. Is he partaking? Does he have the clear? You know what I mean? Does he have that thing that could be out of your system within minutes? Is that what he's doing? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there because he was looking kind of yo. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
He was
kind
looking.
of.
He was man. He was.
He made the temporary tattoo run away from his pec. That happened. That's not hyperbole. That fucking happened. So yeah. I mean,
Hey, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think guys have found another way to beat the system, man. Because I don't know. You don't go down 10 more pounds and keep all that muscle mass. You know,
yeah.
not only are you keeping all the muscle mass, you're looking good like he looked. You know, what's going on, Jose? Is it the acai? Is the acai like really that good? You know, what's going on, man?
Fuck, I'm getting
What's on
acai
the
and I'm gonna
menu here?
jujitsu the shit.
What's on the
Jujitsu.
menu, man?
Yeah.
I mean, 36 years old, man, going down 10 pounds and
Going
still
down
looking
10
as
pounds.
good as you did when you were at 145, even more muscular. I don't
Yeah.
know, man. I don't know what's going on here. What's going on? What's going on here?
Yeah. I don't know. Don McGuire says, I'm back. Dean Lassiter hit me up. Shout out to Don and shout out to Dean Lassiter, one of the best cut men in the business.
In the
Uh,
business.
in the business. So, speaking of business, we are at the main event of the evening, which I really didn't give a shit about. So, video, take it away. I literally
hey,
turned off
hey,
after the first
hey,
round.
so we
I turned
have
off.
Jeff Neal. We have Jeff Neal. Can you relax, man? This dude's biting me, man. Hey, can you
This is a
chill?
dramatic
Hey,
reenactment of Wonder Boy versus Jeff Neal.
Yeah, man. We have Jeff Neal versus Wonderboy Thompson. Jeff Neal versus Wonderboy Thompson. One thing that I noticed immediately was these two have too much respect for each other. They had way too much respect for each other, and it showed in the fight. There were instances where there was a point where Wonderboy fell to the ground, and Thompson allowed him to get up. I mean, Neal allowed him to get up. You know, there was a lot of smiling amongst them, a lot of handshake, high fiving, and there wasn't bad intentions. It wasn't bad intentions. It was more like a glorified sparring match in which Wonderboy looked spectacular. You know what I mean? The skill level was clear. Wonderboy, Mr. Neal, when it comes to striking. Neal didn't even really go for any takedown. He stood the entire time. And For Wonder Boy, it was a wonderful match. He looked fantastic. He pulled off. He threw everything in his arsenal. You know what I mean? The front heel hook, the spinning round. He did everything possible. You know what I mean? And that was a point. The reason why they were both bleeding. It wasn't because the match was so grueling. They banged heads and cut each other with the same headbang. They both cut each other above the eye, and that's what we had. But outside of that, right there, neither fighter really took massive damage. You know, I mean, they're gonna be sore the next day, but there was no bad intention there. It was more like a glorified sparring, and glorified sparring on the biggest platform ever. So that's what that was. Wonder Boy walked away with the win, unanimous decision. And where does Wonder Boy go from here, Mr. Adams? Mr. Adam
Uh,
Wood, where does he go?
uh, you can go back to fucking teaching taekwondo and karate at the fucking North Carolina Wonder Boy fucking training center. I really don't. I really don't. Again, this is the reason why I don't give a shit. That is a pass from UFC 209 Wonder Boy versus Woodley 2. I fucking don't want to like there's that song. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. That is the antithesis of how I feel about Wonder Boy Thompson. I mean, we'll get into it. The fact that, I mean, the fight of the night bonuses, or the performance bonuses, they went four ways, right? We have Jimmy Flick, extra $50,000, right? Marcin Tybura. I mean, that was an easy layup for him. It wasn't to me, it wasn't a $50,000 KO. To me, it wasn't, right? Then we had Rob Font winning over his KO TKO over Marlon Moraes, right? And then Stephen Thompson getting 50,000 for his effort against Neil, right? But all of the three other recipients of that $50,000 bonus were essentially finishes, right? One submission, Jimmy Flake, two TKOs, Tybura and Font, respectively, right?
Yes.
So for me, you don't get $50,000 for a fucking glorified karate exhibition. That's not it. I wouldn't have given it to him, and that's not me being partial. If you wanted that $50,000, you would have finished him, right? I, that's it. I disagree wholeheartedly by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson getting that fucking $50,000. I again, Jeff Neal is, I mean, more than a couple rungs under him in terms of the rankings, right? So you should have finished him with all. I mean, literally have been doing karate since you were 7, right? Your dad, the only your dad's less annoying than fucking Chris Weidman's dad. So kudos to you for that. But I don't no no I don't want any more. Like I feel the same way about Wonder Boy as I do Greg Hardy for completely fucking different reasons. For completely fucking different reasons. Greg Hardy, I don't like the person, the package, whatever. Wonder Boy, I don't like the way he fights. I just don't. And you speak about heart. Wonder Boy doesn't have heart. He doesn't. He wants to be a martial artist. He doesn't want to be a top mixed martial artist. He doesn't. I think all of the shit that he wants to do is window dressing just so he can fucking, you know, I mean, he's 38 years old, right? Unmarried. So all of this is just window dressing for the fact that he didn't get a real fucking job. He just doesn't, right? I mean, if there was like if Chuck Norris is fucking, karate fucking whatever the fuck took off and you could make just as much money doing that,
He'll be there.
that he'd fucking be there. We've never seen Wonder Boy in the UFC.
He
Same
was
thing with Uriah Hall.
he was undefeated there.
Right. Right. So again, to me, he's what are we getting out of Wonder Boy? We're not getting promos out of Wonder Boy. We're not getting exciting fights from Wonder Boy. So Wonder Boy is essentially what do you say? A narcissist, right? He believes in himself so much that he subjects us to shit fights in the UFC post UFC 209. And again, the way that my dad taught me, the way to let your feelings be known, your is your buying dollar, right? So as soon as fucking 2 minutes of that Wonder Boy fight, and I didn't see a fucking KO, I turned that shit off. I will not support Wonder Boy ever
Hey, he's
again.
a nice guy though.
Nice guys, Curtis Blades, right? Martial artists. Dana White said he can fucking. So here's the dichotomy, right? So if Curtis, I thought fucking, I thought Dana White was absolutely right to tell Curtis Blades what he did, right? He fucking teaching judo to kids, right? The same thing, the same argument could be applied to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and he's literally doing that, teaching fucking karate to fucking kids in Carolina, right? But he gets $50,000. The fuck?
Yeah,
What are we doing here?
I see that 50,000 going to Pettis instead.
Yes, 100%.
I agree with you on that one.
It's just Pettis is in contract negotiations. That's why you don't give him the
And
fucking 50.
finish. You got a legit finish.
Yeah, they. That's he's in contract negotiations. So why pay somebody more, right? And somebody that is longer in the tooth that has already been champion, right? And you give it to fucking Wonder Boy. And again, historically speaking, the last couple of UFCs and this whole run, right? The majority of three fucking performance bonuses being doled out, that has happened, right? And they had three. They had Font, they had Tybura, and they had Jimmy Flick. They didn't need to shell out another $50,000. They didn't. So why? And that's why I'd leave it. Why Wonder Boy? Why Wonder Boy getting it? This bonus. Why does Wonder Boy have this main event slot? Why is what it comes to.
Dominant against Neil. He did look dominant. It just wasn't a knockout performance, you know.
But who's Jeff Neal that it makes any difference? If you're a casual, even if who's Jeff Neal?
A dude coming off the Contender Series with a couple wins in the UFC.
Right. So exactly, right? But not a name, right? You might be 13-2 going into this Jeff Neal, but 13-3 now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what does this do for Wonder Boy? Other than solidify his place as a fucking gatekeeper. Now, thank you, Jeff Neal, for taking out fucking Mike Perry, for finishing Mike Perry back in 2019. But aside from that, what do we got? So yeah. I mean, I didn't like this. I didn't like the pick of the main event, but I gave him a shadow of a doubt, right? I gave him the benefit of the doubt in the sense that hey, this could be fucking fun. It wasn't fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wasn't fucking fun. Again, do you get over $100,000 when Wonder Boy is teaching karate exhibitions, doing spinny hook shit, kick, whatever? Is that worth $100,000? Because I guarantee you that's exactly, at the very least, what Wonder Boy made. $50,000, probably what, 200,000, right? 250, $250,000 to see fucking Wonder Boy do a fucking karate exhibition with Jeff Neal, basically coming in as the fucking bag, And Don McGuire says, yeah, I'm surprised they didn't cut him. But no, that's not what they do in North Carolina. That's not what men do in North Carolina. They don't cuddle. So that's probably why we didn't see it, Don. But yeah, I got nothing. Again, Wonder Boy hasn't sold a fucking ticket Has any who? Tell me who after UFC 209 in two fucking boring ass fights. And again, cover wrestling, lover of music, cover MMA, cover boxing, right? Many venues. I have never heard a chorus of boos louder than that fucking main event with Woodley and Thompson at T-Mobile Arena. Never in my life. Never in my life. And I vowed that day, never again. Shit, I could have been fucking partying with Albert Morales and Jason House after Albert's fucking win. You know? I could have done that because Albert is the reason why I fucking went to UFC 209. You know? So I could have done that. I could have jumped into the fucking, the victory party like 45 minutes sooner than I did. You know? You robbed me of that fucking Wonder Boy. Maybe I'm salty. But again, prove me wrong. Be something exciting. Do something exciting. Even, again, you should change your name from Wonder Boy to Wonder Bread. Because that's what you are. You're fucking vanilla. And this is not, and I'm not saying racially or whatever, but again, he's blank fucking, he's dough. He's fucking dough. Without the yeast, he's not a dynamic interview. He's not a KO artist. Despite being a dynamic striker, he's not a knockout artist. Right? He doesn't do anything to warrant my attention. When there's a litany of fucking people that don't have UFC contracts, right? Don McGuire says, "I'm sorry, I meant spoon." 100%. But again, that's not how they do in North Carolina or South Carolina, wherever the fucking Carolina where fucking Wonder Boy is from. And shout out to North Carolina if you're watching this, from there. Shout out, But fuck Wonder Boy. Please, somebody from the Carolinas, come out. Just Merry Christmas to Voodoo and as the backdrop. But I got nothing.
This dog, man, keeps messing with my cord. He's walking through and knocking my stuff over. Hey, man.
You know what? Your fucking dog has a better fucking KO percentage than Wonder Boy Thompson. Post UFC 209. I would have put your fucking.
Hey, man.
Back to the puppy. I would have put him in with Wonder Boy, and that shit would have sold 1 million fucking buys. Guarantee you. Your dog and Jeff Neal is 1 million buys, not Wonder Boy Jeff Neal. Shout out to your dog. Your dog is stacking out a former UFC champion right now. That's facts.
That dude has no respect.
Well, guess what? Wonder Boy fucking has respect, and I don't give a shit about Wonder Boy, but I give a shit about your dog. Shout out to your dog.
Hey, I got a question for you, man.
Shoot.
21. What fight are you looking forward to the most?
Okay. Give it to me.
Yeah, I'm asking you. What fight are you looking forward to the most?
Upcoming?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, McGregor Poirier, and I know that whatever, but again, so whether it be UFC doing it in the case of McGregor, whether it be Bellator, whenever they fucking have a freak show fights, and shout out to freak show fights, because I love it. But again, the undercard. What the fuck is the undercard going to look like? And again, this is a time for you. You've been in quarantine for a large part of the roster, or you might have, out of all the fucking fights that UFC has put on since July 2020, right? And your name hasn't been called. Your face isn't plastered on the lexicon of both casual MMA fans as well as hardcore MMA fans, right? So McGregor Poirier comes, and you have literally probably the greatest talker in MMA history, right? Yes, he borrowed largely 90% of his gimmick from fucking wrestling. Take that away, right? But again, you can upstage McGregor on that night. The choice is yours.
Yep.
Whoever's on that undercard of that fucking fight.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
So that's I'm looking forward to that card, and I really want the fucking people on the undercard to show out. To show out why you should be a recipient of a $50,000 bonus and not fucking Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Good lord.
You know who I want to? You know who I want to see? I want to see Zhang Wei Li versus Rose Thug Namajunas.
That is great. I'm not mad at that. I want to see how that fucking works out.
I want to see that. And then at the end of the year, I want to see if Wei Li, if she wins, if she beat Thug, then at the end of the year, I want to see the Bullet Valentina Shevchenko or whatever her name is versus Zhang Wei Li. Ooh,
champion versus champion.
Ooh, super fight.
That's champion versus champion.
Talk about selling out China.
Yeah. Oh
That's
yeah, and
China.
And I mean, especially Shevchenko, she's from like a Russian Federation, Kyrgyzstan. I want to say, right? She's from Kyrgyzstan, right? Which has a large Chinese influence. So if you're gonna fucking run China, that's the fucking fight to do. That's the fucking fight to do.
If he beats Thug Rose, they will make that fight happen with the quickness. But she's got to beat Thug Rose. She's got to remain champion. Thug Rose got the next title shot.
I thought Thug didn't want that one.
Huh?
I think she declined it.
No. She'll take this fight. The money is too good, man. She'll take this fight. I mean, right now, Wei Li is waiting for her to heal up from that last fight. Heal up and prepare for the Wei Li fight. Wei Li has no other. Who else is she gonna? Who else is on right now? But Thug Rose.
Okay, so
she's waiting for her. She's waiting for that fight to take place. But I think we'll see that fight by March of 2021, and then hopefully by October, November. You know what I mean? We get the Shevchenko versus Wei Li. I want to see that so bad.
Yeah, I mean that's it. So I mean, in terms of it, Dana White, but it looks like, and I hate to burst your bubble, but it looks like we might get. Yep, Don McGuire said, "Yep." Thug declined it. Thug said she wasn't ready for the championship burdens, right? So the contingency, and sorry to thwart your your wishes, but we'll see Zhang Wei Li versus former champion Carlos Esparza before we'll see Zhang Wei Li versus Thug Rose. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but that is the reality of the situation.
Let's go. I mean, for those who don't know, Carlos Esparza was the first champion of this division. Number one, the very first. So
in two different promotions, Invicta and UFC.
Carla Esparza's come full circle, man. Now she's back at the title shot. You know what I'm saying? Let's take that title shot and run with it. You know what I mean? It's going to be an impressive match. You know what I mean? I don't see Carla Esparza standing there and banging it out with Zhang Wei Li. She will get hurt. As soon as possible, initiate that wrestling and bring Zhang Wei Li to where she is not used to being, and see where let's see what the champ is made of. Let's see what kind of heart beats in the champ when she's swimming in the ocean. In the wrestling ocean. Let's see what she's gonna bring to the table, man. You hear me? Will Carla Esparza be able to take her down? Will her wrestling defense be superb, such that Carla can't even take her down and she has to take that beating? Will this happen? Soon to be seen. Soon to be seen. But Carla will be able to get her down a few times. You know what I mean? But will Zhang Wei Li be able to get right back up? That's what's gonna determine how this fight goes. She will make it to the ground, but will Zhang Wei Li be able to stand right back up? Or will she be stuck underneath Carla Esparza, the Cookie Monster? This is to be seen.
Yep. Don McGuire already puts the name in the hat, Timo Yama.
Hey.
You know, so we shall see. We shall see. But speaking of things to see, we'll thank you for joining us here at Voodoo in the Woods, because my goodness, this this show wasn't even a thing before this year, but we thank Voodoo for not only doing this with me, but also you guys for supporting, liking, and sharing. And we see it absolutely. So I think we need to do like before the end of the year wrap up show. That's how we'll wrap up the year
Yes.
before we get into the January 16th
Mhm.
McGregor card.
Mhm.
Before we get into that, we'll do a year in review and we'll talk some shit. We'll probably do it Thursday. Let's do it Thursday. Look,
Yeah,
Thursdays
I would love
actually,
someone on, someone we can interview. That would be awesome.
yeah. So we'll work in it. So that's tentative. Look at the Voodoo in the Woods Facebook and YouTube pages to fucking find out what the hell we're gonna do to close out this stellar year of stellar fights and some not so good ones either. But thank you guys for joining us here. I'm According to Woods, and you can find me exactly there at According to Woods and Voodoo. Where can they find you? But I
Well,
kind of
well, there you go, man. You can follow Voodoo on Twitter, Periscope, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Voodoo Maximus. Oh, by the way, I hear Twitter's gonna be dumping Periscope, man. Did you hear this?
no.
Yeah, they're gonna be they're working on dumping Periscope. I don't know what's gonna happen, but hey.
It's you and Shaman Steve got too big on Periscope that they have to pay you residual money. So they said, fuck it. We'd rather kill the shit than pay them their money, which that's a shit thing to do. But damn it all. That's what happened. I,
Man.
I talked to Jack Dorsey the other day at Twitter. Amongst his move to Austin and everything like that, he let this guy in on his deal. So you and Shaman Steve are getting too big for the platform, and he was going to pay you fucking like $250 million worth of residuals. So he was just like, fuck it, let's just kill this thing. So that's what happened. That's facts, folks.
And by the way, folks, like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification button. Voodoo in the Woods all day.
All damn day. And we will see you soon here at Voodoo in the Woods.